The Houston Astros have begun their final West Coast swing in strong fashion, taking 2 of 3 from the A's. Now they enter the kingdom of Felix Hernandez, with Brad Peacock opposing the mighty King himself. Hi, everybody. Alan Ashby and Jeff Blum with you, along with Julia Morales, who comes along in just a moment. The Astros start up a 10-game portion of the schedule against teams, Seattle and Cleveland, who have shots as wild card entries this year, and they should be big games.
Yeah, you can see that Seattle's still in the hunt, leading in that category. Cleveland Indians looking to make a push here late in the season with those 4 games. Next homestand against those Houston Astros. The Astros have done a great job of late. Swept a 2-game series against the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Then they went into Oakland and took 2 out of 3 from Oakland, where it could have turned into a sweep, allowing them to get to that 63rd win, which will allow them not to lose 100 games for the 4th straight year.
In this series in particular, the Astros bring in HOU AT SEA, having a great year. Robinson Cano of Seattle, also a second baseman, having a great year. Nice little matchup going on.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty unique comparison here in the AL West between 2 great second basemen. Robinson Cano, the big free agent pickup for the Seattle Mariners, doing a great job catapulting their team into that wild card contention. But if you look at it, you expect Robinson Cano to be that big power guy. He's got 46 extra base hits. If you look on the other side, HOU AT SEA has 49 extra base hits, beating out Robinson Cano and a couple of guys that should get some MVP votes by the end of the year.
Of course, Plummer, if you talk about guys having great years now, you have to talk about Chris Carter again. Carter has had a terrific last week on top of everything he's done on the season. He's also been really good here in Seattle, not only this year, but last year as well.
Yeah, a guy that's really been feasting on AL West pitching over the last couple of years, but obviously this year, since July 1st, he's been lighting it up. And here of late, he's doing a fantastic job. Loves hitting in this big ballpark. Went through Oakland, and to understand how well he's swinging the bat, Bob Melvin opted to intentionally walk him and make Chris Carter that guy he didn't want to let beat the Oakland Athletics.
The Astros are making waves in the American League playoff races, making a strong impression on their opponents and themselves in the process. Julia Morales takes the pulse of the surging Stros when we return.
Visiting the Mariners for a 3-game set, and they come in with 63 wins today, a 63 being a very big number for this club. It was a come-from-behind win against the A's yesterday, but it also means that this club will not lose 100 games for the 4th straight season. Players saying that this means there is progress. It is happening, and that's definitely a good sign for everyone in that clubhouse. But the winning has been going on for some time for this club. It's been recently, but even back as far as July 6th, this team has been playing 500 ball. They won 7 out of their last 9 contests. And then for the first time since 2010, they won 3 straight series. They took the silver boot from the Texas Rangers for the first time in a really long time. And for the most part, these opponents they've been playing recently have been pretty tough teams. The Astros taken 2 from the Angels, and then just recently the series from the A's. Trying to play spoiler a little bit. And the last 4 wins for these Astros have come under the interim manager, Tom Lawless. There's a big shakeup in the clubhouse and the dugout when Bo Porter was released on Monday. But since then, the guys saying they feel relaxed under Lawless. A lot of them knew who he was, but they're starting to build a relationship there. And Tom Lawless telling us that the main thing he wants to see from his guys is confidence here finishing out the season. He wants them to ooze that confidence when they take the field, and they're going to need it when they face King Felix tonight. Don't go anywhere. Coming up, the Astros taking on the Mariners, but they're going to have to do some major work against Felix right there. Can the Astros dethrone the King? Don't go anywhere. We'll have first pitch and lineups for you next. Field. We're just minutes away from the Astros and Mariners facing off in game 1 of this 3-game set. The Astros looking to provide more offense for the guy on the mound, Brad Peacock, today. They've been struggling just a little bit outside of course, Jose Altuve and Chris Carter have been continuing to do what they've been doing really all season long for Altuve. He's been a stud, and the hits just keep on coming. 198, just 2 away from that 200 mark, 12 away from matching Craig Biggio's franchise single season hit record of 210. They've been fun to watch, but Tom Lawless would really like to get some of these other guys going today, and they're facing a tough stretch of starting pitchers coming up. And for more, I'm going to send it up to the guys in the booth, Ash and Blemmer.
Thanks a lot, Julia. Here we are. We're starting a 3-game series in Seattle. Chris Carter has a lot of fond memories here. The Astros playing good baseball, as Julia's talking about, and really starting to lay it on some teams that have the shot to get into postseason play. Jose Altuve has some marks in front of him he'd like to get to. And now look at the Astros lineup presented by Jack in the Box. It'll be Robbie Grossman in the top spot. He's in left, followed by Jose Altuve and Dexter Fowler. Middle 3, the DH, Chris Carter. Jason Castro does the catching. And at shortstop tonight, Marwin Gonzalez. The bottom 3 in the order, John Singleton at first, third baseman Matt Dominguez, and Alex Presley gets a start in right field.
Get a look at King Felix going for the Seattle Mariners. Got himself a pretty good outing last time he went out there. Went 8 innings, giving up 3 hits, 1 earned run against the Oakland Athletics. The time before that, he got roughed up a little bit. And as a matter of fact, he gave up 4 home runs in that game, August 29th against the Washington Nationals. And up to this date, the last 5 games, he's given up at least 1 home run in those 5 straight games. So look for the Astros to take advantage of a couple of those heaters early on in the count, trying to stay away from that changeup and curveball that King Felix puts guys away with. He's got fantastic numbers on the season. Right behind Chris Sale of the Chicago White Sox in that ERA lead at 2.18, making his 30th start of the year. How about looking at his innings pitched at 206, strikeouts 209, 6 consecutive years he's gone 200. He's
got some phenomenal numbers through the years. Batting average against, always among the leaders. And Felix set to go here this evening. The first pitch of the night misses outside. That game that Blummer mentioned against Washington, allowing the 4 home runs and 5 earnings in that game. Some folks were saying he might have gotten squeezed pretty tightly in that game. He is hoping to see a strike zone that he can live with tonight. Robbie Grossman has a 2-0 count. Robbie on his year hitting .211. For Felix Hernandez, start number 30 on the year. He is a workhorse for the Seattle Mariners. And it has really paid off for Seattle this year. Seattle, right now, they are the possessors of that second wild card berth in the American League, just a half-game lead over Detroit. Cleveland also still in that hunt. 3 balls and a strike now on Robbie Grossman. Of course, waiting on deck, Jose Altuve. And he just keeps heading upward with all the numbers. Little ground ball to third right off the end of the bat. Seager with the play, and there's the first out of the night. That will bring up Jose Altuve. Jose with a 14-game hitting streak. And a .340 batting average. Take a good look at those numbers. The on-base percentage, very good at .377. Leads the major leagues with the .340. Leads in hits. He leads this American League in stolen bases. He has been phenomenal. 40 doubles on the year. Fastball finds the inside corner, despite the fact that Zunino, the catcher, was setting up away. See any reason, Blummer, at this point that Jose Altuve would start to feel the heat, the pressure of trying to win the batting title and everything else that's going for him this year?
I think V-Mart over there in Detroit's kind of climbing up behind him. Jumped up pretty quick at .337, I think now. 3
points back in that batting race. Victor Martinez has 2 3-hit games in his last 3 games, so he is applying the heat. Fastball hit on the ground. Backhanded it short by Miller. Has a good arm, and he'll get the out. 2 ground ball outs here in the first inning.
Take a look at who's playing behind King Felix. Out there in the outfield, Endy Chavez, the ageless wonder out there in left. Austin Jackson in center field. Michael Saunders back out there in right field. Across the infield, you're going to see Kyle Seager at third. Brad Miller, you just saw it short. Robinson Cano, all-star second baseman. Logan Morrison at first, and Mike Zunino doing the catching with King Felix. But yeah, I think Altuve probably feels it, thinking about it a little bit. I'm not sure he's pressing by any means, but I know that it's got to be a thought in his mind right now.
You know, when you're hitting .340 at this stage of things, and then you look to the National League and the numbers are nowhere close what's going on in the American League, you probably feel like, wow, I should be maybe able to breathe easy. Yeah, but it's just not the case. And as you say, Victor Martinez is putting his full court press on. I think some folks thought that Robinson Cano might put the chase on. He is back a ways, but still in striking position as Dexter Fowler falls behind in the count. When Felix Hernandez pitches here in Seattle, he brings in quite a group down the left field side. They wear the gold colors, and they are up and holding their K cards. Very close on the 0-2 pitch.
You know what, Ash, getting back to that the standings, a wild card. It is now tied between Seattle and Detroit because Detroit won that game earlier this afternoon.
So all even
game right here for Seattle.
Never would have guessed the Tigers would be in a position where they were chasing. 2-2 now on Fowler.
Well, if their pitching gets going and you got V. Mart and Miguel Cabrera doing their thing, they might have a chance just to run by some people too now.
I saw an article earlier today, somebody talking about people that might pursue the MVP ballots here in the American League come the end of the season, and Miguel Cabrera's name came up again, and I'm not sure that he's been as good as Victor Martinez this year, quite frankly.
Yeah, I think V. Mart deserves a lot more of the attention than Miguel's been getting over the last couple of years. Might be V. Mart's year.
Yeah. It's a funny thing. You talk Baltimore Orioles and Nelson Cruz, and he's had a great year, and he might be a guy that factors in, but Adam Jones is huge there.
Yeah.
And then you go Detroit, and everybody thinks Miguel Cabrera, but not sure that that's been the main guy. There's a base hit through the right side, a ground ball just out of the reach of Cano. 2-out single for Fowler brings up Chris Carter.
It's good to see Dexter sneaking that hit through. Trying to turn things around this series. Had himself a rough time out there in Oakland. Went 1 for 11. Intentionally walked Altuve to get to Fowler. Ended up being an RBI walk for him back there in Oakland. Nice way to start against King Felix.
So Dexter aboard. See if he has any intentions of running. Likely not with Carter at the plate.
Let's go, Felix!
Felix Hernandez, a 5-time All-Star. He's been the pitcher of the month in the American League 4 different times. Carter out in front on the off speed. Of course, Chris Carter putting on the full court press when it comes to the home run race in the American League, despite Nelson Cruz hitting a pair. Is that just yesterday now for Cruz?
I think so.
39 home runs. Carter has 36. Again, the swing and a miss. Felix Hernandez has a changeup. He'll throw right around that 90-mile-an-hour mark. It looks like a splitter and just dives at the plate. Apparently the first at bat of the season for Carter against Felix Hernandez this year. There's that splitter looking pitch, the changeup, and the strikeout. So Hernandez goes to that pitch to get Carter for his first strikeout of the night. Comcast Sportsnet is presented by Jack in the Box. Right now at Jack in the Box, try Jack's new spicy chicken club combo for just $4.99 plus tax. It's got my mouth watering. And by AT&T UVerse TV. Find out what's possible with AT&T. Call 1-800-PIC-ATT. Mobilizing your world. Scoreless after a half an inning of play. We've got some Astros fans here in the ballpark. And they need some Astros fans in here. The lineup for Seattle tonight. Austin Jackson leads off. He's in center, followed by left fielder Andy Chavez and Robinson Cano at second. The middle three, Henry Morales, he's the DH. At third base, Kyle Seager having another big year. And Logan Morrison at first base. The bottom three doing the catching. Mike Zunino, Michael Saunders is in right. And at shortstop, it's Brad Miller. And Brad Peacock set to go. First pitch, a fastball right there at the knees. Austin Jackson acquired as a trade right before that trade deadline. And he's been very good in center field for Seattle. They say it's been a serious upgrade. Hitting .269. Started his year with Detroit. And he had been a fixture in center field for the Tigers as Peacock misses close. 2-1 the count. Jackson has a bit of pop, but he's just one of those guys, though he'll strike out quite a bit. He'll get on base. He can drive the baseball, run when he gets on the bases, plays a very good center field. 4 homers on his year, 43 runs driven in. And the strikeout. Tag applied now by Jason Castro as Austin Jackson just walks off, and there's the first out of the night. First strikeout for Peacock.
Well, Brad Peacock did a good job of taking care of Austin Jackson. And good slider down, getting that swing and miss. You look at his numbers on the season. Numbers against the Mariners not as good. 2-3 record, 6.89 ERA. But check out what he's done in his last 3 starts. He's got a 1-0 record, 2.16 ERA. He's gone 16 2/3 innings, had 15 Ks in that span.
Andy Chavez, the left fielder for Seattle. He backs away and takes a strike. For Seattle, a ball club that really by most was not anticipated, even with the acquisition of Robinson Cano, to be battling for a playoff spot this year. And yet here they are. Lumber, I'm curious about your assessment as to what might be the biggest struggle for the Seattle players at this stage of things, finding themselves in the race.
I'm not sure. I think they're in a great spot. I think they're in a great position.
Just enjoy.
Having never expected to be here, you're here now. They're just, it's a win-win situation. They've got nothing to lose except to go out there and play as hard as they possibly can.
Nice job by Jason Castro to block that curveball in the dirt. So in other words, just enjoy the fact you're there. Have fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, nobody ever. Other than those 25 guys that were in the clubhouse when they broke camp, those are the only 25 guys that probably anticipated being in this situation. Everybody else, all the critics said, oh, they're going to compete, but they're not going to be contending for a wild card spot. But now, with what their pitching has done on the year, they really didn't need much more offense than they've got right now.
They lead the American League in team ERA. They have been spectacular, despite the fences being brought in here last year in Seattle. They've had a great bullpen. They've got some terrific arms they bring in from the pen. A drive to right center field. Presley on the move and makes a fine running grab in the gap. So that's the second out. And a nice play by Alex Presley, who continues to show that he can play defensively.
Take a look at the Astros defense. Notice a couple of differences in there. Getting some left-handed bats in that outfield. Robbie Grossman in left, Dexter Fowler in center. Alex Presley with that great running catch in right field. Around the infield, Domingo and Margot on the left. Altuve and Singleton on the right. Jason Castro back behind home plate.
That brings up Robinson Cano. Here's some fans here in Seattle chanting MVP. And that's what they feel about Robinson Cano in his first year now with the M's. That's a good fastball at the knees. Just 12 home runs for Cano, but he's hit .321, driven in 75. He's scored 73 runs, and he plays a great second base. Hits one in the air, left center field. This is in the gap and deep. Fowler on the move, dives, can't get there. One hop up against the wall. Cano into second, and he'll hold there with a 2-out double. And now as the throw bounces away from Marwin Gonzalez off the end of his glove, it gave Cano reason to think about going to third. So Cano just continues having a terrific year now for Seattle. That's double number 33.
Castro wanted that ball elevated, but down in the zone, and that pretty swing of Robinson Cano gets the barrel on it. That ball, that's a tough play for a center fielder. The ball slicing away from him off the left-handed bat. Dexter Fowler gave it a good run, just not enough.
All-out effort with the dive there from Dexter.
And the way the Astros play their outfield, kind of the opposite field, Robbie Grossman playing a little bit closer to the line with left-handed hitters up there, made it real tough for him to try and get back there too.
Switch hitting Kendry Morales at the plate. Pops one foul to the seats. Morales hitting .233 on his year. Morales has hit in 4 straight. 6 hits in that span, including a double and a couple of home runs. Hit a pair of home runs 3 days ago against the Texas Rangers. Peacock out in front, 0-2.
Showing a good breaking ball early on, Peacock is. His confidence has got to be riding pretty high.
Yeah, you would think so. Yeah. Brad Peacock has had his ups and downs, and it's been a battle. His stuff can look really good when he's on his game, and he can look like a guy who doesn't have much of a clue on some other nights.
I think we've actually seen both those issues in the same game a couple times.
At times, you're right. These guys have shown a lot of patience, and a lot of that patience paying off for the Astros. Line shot center field, coming over to make the play, Dexter Fowler. So that line drive off the bat of Morales hangs, and Fowler able to make the play. That'll do it for Seattle. We're scoreless after 1.
Seattle. Astros fans made the trip. Astros Mariners scoreless. It's time for you to tweet your photo using hashtag CSNHFanPhoto for a chance to have it shown in an upcoming broadcast. That's brought to you by AT&T. Guys.
Thanks, Julia. Beautiful ballpark here in Seattle, and you can see it was kind of a Seattle day this afternoon, especially this morning. A little chilly here in town, but much nicer in the afternoon.
The Astros always seem well represented here.
Yeah.
Scattered throughout the Northwest up here, cheering on their Astros. Oh, yeah.
Really?
It's one of those days, isn't it?
Well, I thought the weather forecaster always had time to get the hair worked up. And,
well, look what's going on out there right now. It doesn't look good out there. I thought through the panels, and you know what? Looks like a rat nest up there.
So that'll mess up the hair then, huh?
Yeah, moisture. It's tough to find the right product.
Well, I'll tell you what. Here's my assessment.
Give it to me.
Bad hair day, good hair day. That's just a good-looking man. That's all there is to it.
Got somebody fooled.
We go to the second inning. Jason Castro leads it off. 7-game hitting streak in tow. Hitting .231 on his year. 14 bombs. Felix Hernandez looked like he had a game plan for Chris Carter there in the first inning.
Yeah, nothing but changeups and off speed. He's actually thrown a couple of breaking balls early in these couple of bats here against the Astros. Maybe trying to pitch a little bit backwards, get him sitting on the off speed, and then put him away with the firm stuff.
There's the firm stuff on the outside corner, painted away, and that's what the left-hand hitters, Jason Castro maybe in particular, going to have to be able to deal with tonight against Felix Hernandez. Can't take that one.
Yeah, you got to defend. Whether it's a strike or not is another question, but you've got to defend when it's close, unfortunately. And the amount of looking strikeouts that we've seen throughout the course of this year is astonishing to me.
And a lot with Jason Castro, quite frankly. That outside corner has been troublesome. Felix Hernandez seeking his 15th win on the year. And for Seattle, you have to believe that they feel every game is a must-win game.
Yeah, from here on out, just go out, lay it all out there on the line. Play your heart out for Lloyd McClendon, and whatever happens, happens.
Ground ball back over the mound. The shortstop Miller right at the bag makes a nice play on the short hop to get the out.
Pretty nifty play around that bag. That's tough.
Yeah, no matter what you say, you've got to have some focus, saying this ball might hit the bag. My feet might trip over the bag. Something bad could happen. Felix Hernandez making his 7th career start against Houston. He's 3-2 lifetime. The Astros have had their moments of success, hitting .262 against Felix. And now we'll see how John Singleton deals with it. That fastball at 93. We've seen the changeup at 90. It doesn't seem like much of a differential, and yet the arm speed makes all the difference in the world for the hitters.
Arm speed and the action he gets on that changeup.
There it is.
That's just nasty. And it is more like a split, but we know in some of the times we've seen it, if you can catch how he holds that, he holds it just like a circle change.
Now, you get the impression this has got to be a splitter, but it is that circle change.
When I faced King Felix, he did not have that pitch, thankfully.
That's the kind of pitch that really kind of terminates your thought that I can get to this guy, especially I would think as a left-hand hitter.
Well, and you think, how do I avoid getting to that pitch? This is the pitch I remember, is that 12-6 hammer. But how do I avoid getting to that pitch? But you can't do that against King Felix because he can throw it for a strike.
Yeah. So how do you avoid? Is it all about first pitch? Anything early in the count?
No, you come up with that sore hamstring or maybe a stomach ailment. And you get that, it's called Felix-itis.
Yeah, you get a bad case of.
Get some bad sushi the night before and go, I can't go.
I got some kingatosis here that has flared up overnight. 2-2 pitch. Tries to come with that change. 3-2 waiting on deck is Matt Dominguez.
The Astros actually got to King Felix on April 21st. Scored 6 runs, only 2 of them earned.
Through the 6 career starts against Houston, the Astros have hit .262. And laying off that changeup is John Singleton. So he draws the walk. That was a nice job.
It's tough to lay off that pitch in a 3-2 count.
You can't appreciate it until you get to home plate and you see that pitch start. It looks like a fastball starting at the knees. And the bat wants to start.
Especially in a 3-2 count. You don't want to get beat by the fastball, and then he throws a nasty changeup and you're able to hold up.
Felix Hernandez has been 9-3 this year right here in Seattle. Safeco Field, and it's a beautiful ballpark. They've got the roof they can close over the top, which they've done here for tonight's game. And you saw the results with Blummer's hair.
Yeah,
a little bit of weather going on outside.
Yeah, this isn't like Minute Maid. Out there, see the Safeco Field sign out behind there. It's wide open. There's no glass covering that thing up. So I've got all kinds of problems.
It's just kind of a sliding of a roof over the top, and everything else is in play.
Yeah, I can can barely get my headset on.
Yeah, it looks like you're doing just fine, but
perception isn't always everything, Ash.
see, and I thought it was. So thanks. Another tip for the evening. Pitch in the dirt. Mike Zunino, the young catcher, able to pick that one out of the dirt. John Singleton down at first base like a big-time base stealer, going out and fixing the dirt out in front of him, making sure everything's fine. John's not a bad base runner.
Just got to get out there a little more often.
Yeah, that's been the big issue. Right on the hands as Matt Dominguez fouls it back. Matty D 0 for his last 8. Has a 2-2 count here in the second inning. 1 hit for the Stros, 1 for the M's.
Matty D's actually done semi-decent against King Felix. 2 for 7. 1 home run, 3 RBIs.
Matt took an 0 for 4 in yesterday's game at Oakland. In the air, center field. That'll drive Jackson back well shy of the warning track. He'll make the catch. Freezing out beyond second base, John Singleton. No way to figure that out. We're scoreless.
Now still no score between the Astros and M's. And if you are tweeting, we'd like you to check out our Twitter questions so you can respond, and then we'll read some of the best tweets later in the game. It's how excited are you about the Astros' increased win total this year? The Astros at 63, much improved in the 51 wins 1 year ago, guys.
It's really been amazing, Julia. Thanks. To watch this club improve, a lot of it has been done here in recent times. But it's a long schedule, and it truly is a marathon. And where you make up ground is it's going to change year after year. I don't care how much a team comes out of spring training thinking that they've got things maybe in hand. You're going to hit your rough patches.
Sure are. Ask the Brewers, ask the Tigers.
Yeah. Well, for the Brewers, that's happened at a very bad time. They've lost 11 of 12 right now.
Ask the Oakland A's.
Amen to that one. The Astros just taking 2 out of 3 from Oakland. As Kyle Seager grounds into an out. Jose Altuve playing from the outfield grass. Out number 1 here in the second inning. It brings up first baseman Logan Morrison. You know, and a lot of people want to label choke to that kind of stuff. I don't, you know, and I hear you, and I feel the very same way. For me, that season, the ups and the downs are not by choice or by choke. It comes.
Well, if you say choke in September, why can't you say choke in May if they had 10 or 12 game losing streak then.
Yep. Yeah, and the belief for many people would be that, well, once you build up that lead, now's the time that you need to be able to keep winning, and if you don't, that's choke time.
And good teams get beat. Baseball's crazy like that.
Brad Peacock appears to be sharp here early. Has a 1-1 count on Morrison. Mike Zunino waits on deck. Not a big crowd here this evening, and again, Seattle right there in that playoff hunt. Ball and 2 strikes.
Yeah, the Seahawks played on Thursday. No football going on this Sunday or Monday night here in Seattle. You figure they'd come out and see their ace pitcher King Felix going in a wild card race.
It just doesn't seem to be the thing here in Seattle right now. The Seahawks, on the other hand.
It's nice when you've got the title belt going into your season, too. That'll get you some fanfare.
Boy, and they looked really good again.
Yeah. I think what's unique about them is they're such a young football team that won a world championship, but they're still relatively hungry for another one.
A lot of people will say it's all about defense, and they've got a great defense as this ground ball goes foul. But I tell you what, Russell Wilson and company are not too bad either.
Yeah, beast mode. Marshawn Lynch doing his thing, but yeah, they've got a pretty potent offense.
He's got that little guy behind center to go with the beast and everything else, but tell you what, guys can play.
Yeah, they can.
Now that we bring that up, Texans weren't too bad in game 1.
Yeah, they played extremely well. Just a little disappointing to hear Jadeveon Clowney having that MCL issue.
Which fouls back.
Be out 4 to 6 weeks. It's kind of disappointing. I was looking forward to watching.
Did they say
Clowney and Watt? MCL.
MCL, okay.
Maybe a little meniscus in there too.
Yeah, because meniscus was what I was hearing as of this morning, as of last night.
Double check. I get mixed up on my M's.
I was hoping it was meniscus.
Yeah, well, 4 to 6 weeks would tell me meniscus.
Yes, it would. It would.
But nothing with the intercostal.
Well, that's a baseball injury. You don't pull an intercostal while you're hitting 280-pound men at full speed.
Apparently, intercostal's not an impact injury. More torque.
It's all about torque. I think guys have tightened the torque muscles a little too much in this game. Fouling it off again is Logan Morrison. A full count.
Not to be confused with twerking.
No, please don't. I get the impression for Brad Peacock, because we talked a little bit about him and the ups and downs, that maybe some of the pressure's off, but he's got to still be feeling it. Every start means the world toward next year for Peacock. Pitch is hit in the air down the right field side, deep and into the corner. This is one hop into the seats. Ground rule double for Logan Morrison with one out here in the second.
It's a good at bat. Nothing bad by Brad Peacock. Tried to get in the kitchen, Logan Morrison. He just did a better job of fighting this one off. Missed his spot.
For Morrison, double number 14 on his season. How are your Chargers doing?
Don't ask.
No?
Too early. Okay. We've already seen a couple flags. And it's a meniscus tear, MCL sprain for Clowney.
So therefore the MCL sprain is deemed to be in the category of should heal within that 4 to 6 weeks.
Yes.
Mike Zunino at the plate. Contrast in numbers this year. Young catcher has some good power. 20 homers, but he's hit just 198 on the year. Has an 0-2 count. See that big swing. Hit a ball earlier in the year here in Seattle against Houston a towering drive, big time distance on it, right down the left field side, up and over the foul pole, and you couldn't even see where the ball went over that pole.
Well, those numbers would dictate he's all or nothing, huh?
They called it a foul ball, and the Astros took a big deep breath. That got a piece of the lead on the shoulder of Zunino. He's hit by the pitch. The runners at first and second now with one out. 8-hitter Michael Saunders at the plate.
Disappointing. Curveball gets away from Peacock and just grazed Zunino's left arm. Take advantage of one of the best bargains in Minute Maid Park with the Coca-Cola Value Days package, available with specially marked Coke products. The package includes a ticket, hot dog, popcorn, and bottle of Coke for just $16. Visit Astros.com for more information. You better do it soon because there's only one homestand left.
Three games on that homestand with the Seattle Mariners, 4 with the Cleveland Indians. So it's a big homestand in terms of those clubs that are trying to find their way into the postseason. And for the Astros, every game's big. You know, Julia and we have talked about how the Astros have improved so much over last year. 63-80 as they start play today. Peacock finds the outside edge. 16-win improvement over the record this date last year. They were 47-95 and on their way to 111 losses.
The Astros had no idea what they were in for at this time of last season when they went into that 15-game losing skid to finish off 2013.
Well, it was a rough season. It would be a mild statement, but to think you were going to lose 15 to finish up the year,
that was just insult to injury.
Yeah, it really was.
But yeah, kind of refreshing. It's a big deal not to lose 100 games.
The Astros just got done making life tough on the Angels and the Oakland A's, and I think other ball clubs right now are really starting to take notice of what the Astros are doing.
You can notice it at our level. We're walking around these booths up here, and you go in and you talk to opposing broadcasters, and they're like, "Hey, you guys are playing well."
Yeah.
It's a much different mood up here, even for us, compared to last year.
Well, do you remember back in May this year when the Astros had their only above 500 month, and how well the club was playing? And then it turned back around, but that was really an enlightening time about maybe what you could look forward to with the Astros in the future.
Yep. Definitely showing signs of promise.
Still a young ball club down there, make no mistake, but I think they now don't just say we think we can win. I think they believe now that they can play shoulder to shoulder with anybody on the field. Ground ball to first. Singleton goes on to second for one. Laid over to the bag, Brad Peacock, and that cost the Astros a chance at a double play. Marwin Gonzalez had to hold on until Peacock got to the bag. So a fielder's choice out number 2. Runners at first and third for the 9-hitter Brad Miller.
Saunders can run a little bit too. That was a pretty good pickup by Singleton. Made a strong throw. And like you can see right there, Marwin had to wait until Peacock was in a good fielding position. You don't want to try and lead a pitcher. There's not too many times they're actually going to make that catch and keep it in front of them.
So now one more hitter to get for Peacock. Brad Miller hitting just .214. The M's are not going to overwhelm you with team batting average. They're 12th in the league. Ball hit in the air to center field. Easy for Fowler as he backs. He'll make the play. That'll do it for Seattle in the second inning. They get a hit and leave a pair. We're scoreless after a pair of innings.
Talking about the team's recent play, he says, "We're playing relaxed right now, and that's a great thing to see. Anytime you get that, it's a breath of fresh air." And guys, I got to tell you, after a crazy start to last week, it's been business as usual in the clubhouse. There's no more pressure of trying to win more games than they won last year, because that's behind them. And also now, no pressure to not lose 100 games, as they have that one behind them as well. But just good pitching they've had, and Jose Altuve and Chris Carter, the way that they still have the confidence. These guys feel good. And I was even told after that really tough 9th inning loss in Oakland, there was no panic in the clubhouse. The team just regrouped and went back out there and won the next one.
Thanks, Julia. And that could have been, that loss in Oakland, one of those games where it could have set up a rough time to come. But that turnaround win yesterday over the Oakland A's, what that did was, it was a nice boost for the Astros. It had to be devastating for Oakland and their fans.
Yeah, that was an interesting win. It's not as if the Astros went out there and took it from the Oakland A's. They were pretty much given it, but they still put together great at bats, took their walks, and took advantage of that situation. But I think what I like best is after that game, how Julia said they didn't panic when they lost. That sends a pretty good message to that guy out in the bullpen,
yeah.
Chad Qualls. Says, hey, if things happen, man, we still got your back. No worries.
Yeah, I never heard or felt a single thing on the ball club about anybody talking behind Qualls' back, anything like that. You know, you have a club or two over the course of a season, even when you have a very good year, that have your number. And that appeared to be the case with Qualls and the Oakland A's.
The numbers back that up.
Yeah.
For Chad Qualls. It's unfortunate.
But it really was a ball game that was handed on a silver platter. But the Astros grabbed onto the platter and
yep.
took it and finished it.
I mean, nobody can complain about winning.
Alex Presley at the plate to start this 3rd inning. How about the stuff of Josh Fields in the 9th inning?
He's got some pretty good stuff. That changeup's been effective for him, but still, that arm was electric, and he was hitting the corners with that fastball. Tony Sipp was good in that series against Oakland.
Yeah, he picked up a big one in the first win. And now Presley draws the leadoff walk. Second walk already issued by Felix Hernandez. Back to the top with Robbie Grossman. He grounded out to third base, squibbed one right off the end of the bat, and Seager threw him out. Robbie now 0 for his last 9. These Mariners lost 1-0 to the Texas Rangers yesterday. There goes the runner. The pitch bunted at and missed by Grossman, and the throw down has got him. Good throw by Zunino. He's a very nice young catcher. And caught stealing Alex Presley. And Robbie Grossman, I don't know if he was just trying to protect his runner going or if there was a bunt on.
Yeah, that looked peculiar. Wasn't a bad pitch to bunt. Would have been a good time to try and bunt for that base hit and get a sac bunt out of it, but Presley off on that first pitch.
So just like that, out number 1 here in the 3rd inning. Robbie Grossman takes another strike, and it's 0-2.
We've seen that manager Tom Lawless likes the running game.
Line shot into right field, so Robbie has a response on the 2-strike pitch. Hit number 2 for the Astros. The other picked up by Dexter Fowler back in the first. Well, that makes that caught stealing very big.
Doesn't that happen every time when somebody gets thrown out, the next guy gets a knock?
Mentioned the M's getting beat yesterday 1-0. They had won 5 straight prior to that. So they've been playing good baseball, doing their part to stay in the race. Now Jose Altuve at the plate. Again, he's hit in 14 straight. 198 hits on his season. One more to tie Miguel Tejada for second best ever for the Astros in a season. Saw a story today on a number of things, but George Springer involved in part of the story, and talked that Springer may come back this year, and it may happen on the upcoming homestand. It's kind of hard to decipher. Nobody actually said that, but Jeff Luna was quoted as saying that he'd be back as soon as he was ready.
I've never seen a guy go on the DL with such secrecy.
Yeah, it's been pretty CIA.
I mean, if you're hurt, you're hurt. You're on the DL if you're coming back. But I don't even think we've heard a word out of George. I'm sure Julia's listening and trying to get something good out of him, though.
1-1 on Altuve. That changeup is tap foul. Altuve proving that it's possible to make contact on the change. Maybe not good contact. Altuve lifetime against Seattle, a .311 hitter. Even has a couple of home runs against Seattle. There goes Grossman, a swing and a miss. Throw down offline. So it's a stolen base for Robbie Grossman, but Jose Altuve is out on strikes. Third strikeout now for the King.
Pretty nasty changeup again from King Felix, getting hot, hitting Altuve.
For Robbie Grossman, stolen base number 6 in 7 tries on the year. The Astros second best in the American League in terms of stolen bases. That's their 100th as a club. Dexter Fowler had a base hit, grounding one through the right side in the first inning. 2 hits aside. Tough matchup for Brad Peacock.
It's a couple times up against.
That pitch in the dirt gets on by Zunino all the way to the backstop. Into third is Grossman, and he takes a turn down at third base. Wild pitch, and now that first possible run of the night, 90 feet away. I assume that was the changeup.
I'm not sure. You just rather have your catcher down, down on his knees blocking that, trying to keep it in front of him.
If it's a fastball, I get it. It's near impossible to turn over and try to block a fastball. But the change, you should be ready for that. 1-2 now on Fowler. Dexter with that base hit in his first at bat, hitting .274. And down on strikes. So Felix Hernandez gets a couple of strikeouts in the third inning, leaves a man on third, and keeps it scoreless here in Seattle.
similar between the two. Get your school signed up for the Astros brand new Rising Star program and rewards students for good behavior with free tickets to an Astros game. We will create an experience your group is sure to remember. Call 1-877-9-ASTROS or email groupsales@astros.com. Ash.
Thanks, Julia. Well, we got a little time. Julia, I don't know if you can still hear me. Anything fun going on here at the ballpark?
Let me tell you about these tacos I had, guys.
Oh, did you get them?
The lingua, what is it? The tacos that are so famous here? Well, I had the pork, but they were fabulous. So if you guys get a chance, go to Edgar's.
I was sitting here with Julia, I don't know, an hour before game time, and she said she had heard about these tacos down the left field side. So apparently they lived up to the reputation, huh?
Well, Jeff Luno told me about the tacos.
Okay, well.
It's his favorite ballpark food, I think, of all ballparks.
They better live up to the reputation then. Scoreless game. We go to the bottom of the third inning, and glad to hear they were great. Top of the order for the M's. Austin Jackson leads off. Brad Peacock matching Felix Hernandez here this evening. Close. It's a 1-1 count, and that body language of Jason Castro said he thought that was a pretty good pitch. Started to throw it back and held on for a moment there, just wanting to settle Peacock down. Thought it might be chilly in here tonight, Blummer, but it's pretty pleasant. And now the walk. So a leadoff walk to Austin Jackson. That'll bring up Andy Chavez. First walk issued by Peacock. He has also hit a man. That was Zunino in the second.
Yeah, the humidity's up in here, Ash, and they got this lid on top of it, holding it in a little bit. And I think Peacock's temperature might be rising after some of those pitches he thought were strikes being called balls.
Yep. Based on what Castro reacted like, maybe Peacock had reason to feel like they should have been called strikes. Home plate umpire tonight, Mark Carlson. There's your strike. Jeff Nelson, the crew chief, is down at first. Pat Hoberg at second. And at third, Scott Berry. There's Mark Carlson. 41 pitches for Brad. Andy Chavez lined out to right field. Into the gap. A nice play in right center by Presley to get him in the first inning. 0-2 the count. Mariners are 22-12 since the start of August. That's the fourth best record in the major leagues in that span. Behind, take a deep breath, Kansas City, 24-10 in that span.
Not bad at all. That's how you want to finish up a season.
Are you surprised by KC?
No. I like their pitching.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to drop bombs and overwhelm you, but they're going to double you to death. But their pitching, I mean, their starting pitching has been great. That bullpen is unreal to watch the arms come out of that bullpen.
I saw a headline, Danny Duffy, who's had a great season as one of the starters, is ailing just a bit. I would imagine they can't afford to lose him right about now.
Yeah, hopefully it's just like a late season sore shoulder type situation that they can suppress, bring him back.
So you're not surprised by KC.
Well, that was one of the teams in the Central we had heard about.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, as far as maybe leading the Central, that might have surprised me a little bit, but I thought they were a pretty good ball club.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money there. To me, Detroit was the, if you said, okay, you can pick one team that is your lock to win their division this year, I would have said Detroit.
Yep.
So in that sense, Kansas City is a surprise. That they're good doesn't surprise me. Runner goes, pitch in the dirt, and it's going to be a stolen base for Austin Jackson. So Seattle plays a little running game here. Picks up the stolen base. Austin Jackson with his 7th in 9 tries for Seattle. As a running club, Seattle just mid-pack in the American League. They are 8th. That's their 81st steal. So still nobody out. Jackson now in scoring position. Andy Chavez with a 2-2 count. Brad Peacock continues to be a pitcher that yields the stolen base and yields a lot of attempts against him. Tends not to be overly quick to the plate, and he also tends to have a lot of base runners.
It's a bad combo.
You have to keep an eye on Jackson at second, but this one popped up. Playable for Matt Dominguez, and out number 1. And a big out. That'll bring up Robinson Cano. So you're not surprised by Casey. You picked Baltimore to win the American League East, but are you surprised the way Baltimore has just simply run away and hid in that division?
Very much so. I mean, I expected their offense to be good, but I didn't expect the AL East to fall away from them the way they are. I mean, look at what their pitching is doing. Their bullpen is 4th in the American League.
I'm going to put Robinson Cano on intentionally. There's the first wide one. And quite frankly, in this lineup for the Mariners, there's no reason to face Cano in a big scenario. Cano has lived up to the high-hitting .322 this year. And there are those who feel that he should get his due in terms of MVP voting. One out in the 3rd inning, scoreless game. Cleanup man Kendry Morales waits on deck. So Cano has reached twice tonight, had a double back in the 1st. The American League East, 10 games. The Orioles over the 2nd place Yankees.
Yeah, that's just astonishing to me that this late in the season they've got a 10-game lead. Pretty impressive stuff by the Orioles.
Of course, we're all surprised by the Boston Red Sox. I didn't see that fall coming.
No.
I didn't think they were going to win the division. But the world champions from a year ago have been downright bad. The Astros start the day with the very same record that the Red Sox start the day with.
How about that?
Castro getting his work in.
There's your surprise.
Boston Red Sox.
Maybe the Astros are the biggest surprise in the American League.
Could be. Right now, if you asked a lot of people in the know, I wonder who would be the biggest surprise in the American League.
Depends on what you like for surprises, bad or good.
Yeah. 1-1 the count on Morales. I think a lot of people would pick the Orioles. A lot would pick Kansas City. How about the Tigers? But there would be some to say, what about the Astros? They won 51 games last year. And right now they have 63 wins with tonight's game, 19 to play. Two balls and a strike on Morales. Morales was acquired in late July by Seattle, a trade from Minnesota. And now a 2-2 count.
Good location.
A little sounding off from the Seattle bench.
May have thought it was a little bit low. Pitcher's pitch and you get the call, go with it.
Previous pitch I thought could have been considered as a high strike and wasn't considered. Ball chopped foul. Count stays at 2-2. Kendry Morales was granted his free agency in October last year, but didn't sign until June 8th as a free agent with Minnesota. That didn't last long. Just a month, maybe a month and a half later, traded by the Twins to Seattle. Grossman, he'll make a nice play with a fine jump in left field. And out number 2 here in the 3rd inning. Runners still at 1st and 2nd. It'll bring up 5-hitter Kyle Seager. And Seager is the other bat that I don't think you want to mess with in this Seattle lineup.
Well, especially the way he hits against these Houston Astros, putting up big numbers. You can see Alex Presley in that. Robbie Grossman out there tracking that one down.
We just saw Robbie Grossman hit a cutoff man, by the way.
Get the tape, save it.
This conversation is probably about Kyle Seager. And look, if you walk him, it's not the worst thing to happen right here. Now, Seager is only, and this surprises me, in 31 games over his career against Houston, a .235 hitter. But he has 5 home runs and 22 RBIs in those 31 games. Drawn 17 walks. Very dangerous hitter. And they love him defensively at third base here in Seattle. And for whatever reason, Seager has loved hitting here in Seattle. Safeco Field. He's hit .324 this year with 16 of his home runs at home. .390 on base percentage here. And now in front on the count, 2-0. Peacock snapped at the baseball coming back. Not a place to make a mistake here. Well spotted, bottom of the knees. It's 2-1. We just saw an article. Was that yesterday about the strike zone making its way downward a bit in Major League Baseball? And we're starting to see a little evidence of that.
That was a great article too, by the way. There was a lot of talk. The whole article is about how the offense is diminishing in baseball.
Again, the bottom of the knees.
A lot of it has to do with the technology around ballparks these days that keep track of strike zones. Every umpire in the major leagues is being monitored these days. And we've seen the edges of the zone tighten up as opposed to the.
Look at the. By the way, I hate to cut you off. Look at the front knee there, where that ball was at the knee, at the front of the plate.
The knee.
Yeah, you're right. So, and I think players need to get accustomed to this because I think it's accurate. Sorry again.
It's all right. He's going to punch him out. We don't have time to talk about it.
That started the appeal. Yes, he went. Kyle Seager is punched out. Second strikeout for Peacock, and a big one as Peacock gets out of the second inning, or third inning rather, and strands a pair of runners. Still scoreless after 3.
The Astros and Mariners, and this moment in history is brought to you by MD Anderson, making cancer history. 10 years ago today, the Astros tied a franchise record with their 12th straight win and jumped back into the playoff race. Roger Clemens passed Eddie Plank for 11th on the all-time wins list with his 326th career victory. Bish, Berkman, Bagwell, and Lamb all homered in the first inning. Killer bees and a lamb.
You ever hear from Mike Lamb anymore?
I haven't recently. See him every now and then over the offseason.
Chris Carter leading off here in the fourth. Hits one sharply on the ground. Backhanded by Miller. Takes his time and guns. And gets Chris Carter. Pretty heady play there at shortstop by Miller.
Good play. Good job of securing that ball. You can see him take a couple extra steps to make sure he makes a nice strong throw, knowing Carter doesn't run that well.
That's knowing your surroundings right there.
Yep. Sure is.
Out number one brings up Jason Castro. Like Carter, Castro struck out and pops one shallow into left field. Coming on is Chavez to make the catch very quickly. 2 outs here in the fourth. We mentioned Seattle has pitched extremely well. They lead the American League easily in team ERA, 3.02. Next best Oakland at 3.30. But you can look at some of the numbers, and Blum's the best guy in the world to explain them to you.
They're good. I don't know what you want to hear from me. I know that these guys, that league best, or I mean, 3.02 ERA throughout the course of a season here in the middle of September. If you look at the numbers their bullpen put up last year, you would have said there's no way they pull that off. But putting Fernando Rodney out there in that bullpen with his 43 saves, that's why the record's good for the Seattle Mariners, and that's why the numbers are so good.
Starting pitching for Seattle is also best in the American League. They're in front of Tampa Bay and Kansas City. 3.33, and that's a good ERA, obviously leading the league. But then you go to that bullpen that Jeff's talking about, and they are just spectacular. 2.41 as a group is that ERA, and that makes life pretty nice and easy on the skip, I would think. And yet you hear people talk about, well, we're going to take pitches so we can get into the bullpen. Well, if you're playing Seattle, that may not be a good idea.
Careful what you wish for, huh?
Marwin Gonzalez at the plate, a 1-2 count. Yeah, that ploy could really backfire. The more and more these teams now load up with mid-90s plus arms in the bullpens. Guys come in, pitch an inning, just blow hitters away. The Oakland A's have the second best bullpen in the league at 284. Well back, Cleveland and Baltimore, the Angels follow. Even the Boston Red Sox have a very good bullpen. They're 6th. But the offense has just departed for the Red Sox. Last year they were the best in the league offensively. And now a 3-2 count. People say you win on pitching. Yeah, you can. You can also win on offense. The Red Sox did last year with their World Championship.
Yeah, you can just overpower some people.
That's really what the Oakland A's had going so much of this season, was they pitched well, hit well. Line shot down the left field side. That's extra bases. Into the corner. Marwin Gonzalez has himself a 2-out double here in the 4th inning. It'll bring up John Singleton.
That is just some high-quality professional batting by Marwin Gonzalez. Had himself at a 1-2 count. Laid off some pitches, spit on a couple, and then you get a fastball up 3-2. Just go with it. Watch how he stays on this and just fires it down that left field line. That was a great piece of hitting.
So Marwin Gonzalez aboard. John Singleton drew a walk in the 2nd. Big swing, but it's also the changeup. For Marwin, double number 13. Mike Zunino's getting some work in here this evening.
Sure is. King Felix losing command here in this inning. A couple more pitches than I'm sure he'd like to.
The Astros have not been a big-time doubles club this year. They're 15th. That's dead last in doubles. They're last in hits in the American League. Just see how tough that off-speed stuff is from Felix Hernandez.
It's just a firm hammer down and in.
But the Astros are also third in the league in home runs. Would love to pick up a couple of those here this evening. Strike three called, caught looking Singleton. 5 strikeouts for Felix Hernandez. Through 3.5, a scoreless game.
Get the best value and receive great benefits throughout the season. Call 1-877-9-ASTROS now to reserve your seats.
More and more Astros fans. It's a beautiful ballpark. Safeco Field.
It is. The downtown, the whole environment here is pretty good.
Right next door to, and I don't know the name of the
Century Link
for the Seattle Seahawks. You can see it right out the left field side here.
Also home of the MLS Seattle Sounders.
That's it. Kind of the colored rings back there.
Sorry, I was late with the teleprompter.
John Madden was in the booth briefly there.
Teleprompter or telestrator?
Telestrator.
Yeah. Then you go bam. Yeah, it's right there.
Yep. The circular bam is right there. They keep it in color for you. Logan Morrison, the 6-hitter, leads it off. Be followed by Mike Zunino and Michael Saunders. This one will find the seats on the left side.
Did you just call him Chaz Michaels?
I may
Saunders?
have. I may have. Apologize to all the family.
He's a great figure skater.
Do you see the guys, all the folks down there in the yellow shirts, gold shirts down the left field side?
What are you talking about?
Those are the. I know you couldn't miss it. Those are the. Felix Hernandez fans.
King's Court. Man, that got a piece of Castro, it looked like.
The left biceps has been beat up. You know what? When you get through 162 games, it's big, deep sigh time and let the body heal for a little while. That's how this comes up. If that hits other guys, you're going to have the trainer and a card out there for a guy, but Jason Castro takes it and you just move on to the next pitch. Part of the life. Just kind of suck it up.
It's a great big hang with him.
Nobody wants to hear anybody whine.
Yeah, he made the choice, man. You know, you did too. You go sit behind the plate and have people firing baseballs at me. It sounds like a great time.
I had absolutely no choice, as this is shot foul. When you have limited to 0 skills, you do what you can.
So they put limited skills behind home plate?
Well, it's a different set, but I didn't have strong check marks in some other areas.
I'm not buying that. I've seen your prodigious pop. We know you can swing it.
Yeah, absolutely. 2-2, just a bit high.
Change it.
Now we've seen the low strike steadily called here this evening. The high strike is not going to happen.
You know, getting back to that strike zone thing, we have not seen any of the edges, and it's a lot of it has to do, and this article said it was with the technology in ballparks these days.
The umpires are getting reviewed consistently, and they're doing a better job, no doubt. Down on strikes here to start the 4th inning is Logan Morrison. 3 strikeouts for Peacock.
Well, if you look at the letter of the law and then you put up some of the umpire statistics, I guess, you're going to see that they are staying right within the realm of what the rule book says. I mean, it may not go as high as you think it should be as far as the rule book, but that lower strike zone is being called a lot more frequently.
Do you think the umpires have a private, secret set of statistics that floats around amongst the umpires, and they can see who the leader, who's the MVP of the season?
I would imagine there's got to be some comparisons between all the umpires.
Towering pop comes ever so close to the top of the roof here, and it's out number 2 when it finally comes down. Mike Zunino pops out. That was close.
It was real close. That's not easy to do. That's in the middle of the ballpark. We're at the highest point.
Yeah, there's Marwin checking the roof up there after it's all said and done. Imagine down on the field that had to look like it went up and through the roof and then back down.
Marwin made it look easy. You know what would have happened if me and bench coach Adam Everett were out there during that one? You got it. Screaming at each other.
Yeah.
You take it. No, you take it. We were not a fan of those pop-ups.
I can't really blame you.
Did you have a well, shoot, you played at the Astrodome. It was
that was
miserable.
Great. No. That
really?
was very good behind home. It was that concrete color kind of thing back there, and it was the perfect background on the pop flies.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. No, where I had a tough time is go out what we just saw in Oakland with that blue sky and the sun shining, and then take it another step into Candlestick Park with the wind howling, and yeah. Just nightmares. Line shot dropping in right field. It's a solid base hit. Michael Saunders is aboard, has a 5-game hitting streak. 2-out single brings up the 9-hitter Brad Miller.
Saunders just did what you're supposed to do. You get a 2-1 heater, you turn on it.
That lead by the Baltimore Orioles, by the way, in the American League East. Seeing a little headline, says it's the largest lead in the American League East since 1979. Wow. Now that takes in some pretty good Yankee clubs.
Give you some perspective.
Count as he waves through that curveball in the dirt. The article says Baltimore manager Buck Showalter, as we watch this curveball again. It's a good one, by the way. Showalter was a 21-year-old minor league manager in the Yankees system in 1979 with a locker made of, quote, 2 nails and a piece of tape, end quote. None of the players in his current clubhouse was even alive the last time the Orioles held a double-digit lead in the American League East. So that that headline was about the Orioles in particular. Strike 3 called, caught looking Miller. A couple of strikeouts in the inning. 4 on the night for Brad Peacock, matching the King.
Great guest, hot topics, and no holds barred debate. Kevin Eschenfelder serves it up fresh every single weeknight on Sports Talk Live at 5 p.m. only on Comcast Sportsnet. It's September baseball, and baseball players, creatures of habit, so they are still continuing to work just as hard as they have been at the beginning of the season. This Astros club does early hitting work on the first game of a road series, and they were at it again today. Ralph Dickinson and John Maley, we're looking at him right there. The hitting coach is very impressed with the number of guys that showed up today. They had 9, and putting a lot of work in this late in the season. You guys know what your bodies feel like at this point, but they said it's very important for them to continue what they're doing, stay in that routine.
Thanks, Julia. We are absolutely worn out sitting here in our seats.
Exhausted. This suit is tight.
Matt Dominguez leads off, scoreless ball game. We go to the 5th inning. At a deep fly to center field in the 2nd inning. Curious with Julia what her, I don't know, she wasn't really talking superstitions, but she's a part of the game now, a regular part, and very well respected, I might add. Seager with a do-or-die play comes up barehanded and drops it. Matt Dominguez is aboard to start this 5th inning.
I bet if you ask Seager if he had that to do over again, he might go with the glove.
They've ruled it a base hit, but as you watch it, you'll see that Matt Dominguez is nowhere near first base when, well, you can't quite see it.
Yeah, but much like we talked about Miller, the Mariners shortstop, who caught that backhand on Chris Carter, took a couple steps, made sure he got on top and made a strong throw to get Carter because he's not that fast.
Exactly.
In the same token, Domingo's not one of the faster guys on the ball club, and maybe had an opportunity to secure that ball in his glove and make a strong throw.
They've ruled it a base hit. Yeah, I completely concur. I think that this is a tactical error.
Yeah, but sometimes you're
right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's plenty of time to get your man. Yeah.
But in seeing that version of the replay, he did Matt Dominguez a favor right there.
Is there a tendency as an infielder, especially a third baseman? You can see Seager shaking his head, and I think he knows he made a mistake there. But is there a tendency after having success barehanded to start to maybe try it at times when you don't need to?
Maybe. I'm not sure. I always erred on the side of caution. I wasn't a flashy type infielder. I made real sure that I secured the ball, and I was actually, personally, I feel like I was very good at doing the bare hand throw across, but I knew I would take every advantage of using that leather every chance I could.
If you watch the timing, and I wasn't an infielder, but you watch the timing of the play, there are times when I would contend it's just as quick with the glove as most guys barehanding, because they'll barehand and then swing the arm back to throw. Whereas if you take glove in hand, it's the same move.
Well, if you went down and talked to Adam Everett, he would probably say the same thing I'm about to say right now, is that it's all about the footwork. If you've got good footwork, you're going to be in good position to field a normal routine ground ball. And much like you're saying, if you're charging in and you have the right steps in order and your hands are in the right place, you're going to make that play maybe just as easily if you use the leather.
Pretty good shortstop right there, Adam Everett.
And he wasn't a flashy guy.
No,
he went out there and made every play look easy, and that's what I appreciated, is that those guys that would go out there and just make every play, and you're like, wow, that was actually a really good play, even though you made it look really easy.
You think there were a few pitchers who might have agreed with you along the way?
Absolutely.
The one thing I always found from pitchers is they wanted the guy who made the routine play. Now, if he made a couple of really nice ones along with it, cheer him on time, but make that routine play. And I think that's been one of the big problems for Jonathan Villar, is the routine play doesn't feel routine.
I always wanted a ground ball to me. I wanted the pitcher just to put his head down and walk off the field. I didn't want him to have to think twice about, oh my gosh, is he going to make that play? And I think, you know, once you plant that seed of doubt, that's where some of the issues come in.
Alex Presley with a 2-2 count. Drew a walk and then was caught stealing in the third inning, and now caught looking. 6 strikeouts for Felix Hernandez. First out here in the 5th inning.
And we do a lot of talking about strike zones, and we've talked about it already here in the 5th inning, that this strike zone is low. And you know, as a hitter, once you've seen a couple innings go by and a couple of these strikeouts where guys are getting punched out down in the zone, when you get to 2 strikes, you better darn well protect that bottom part of the zone.
Yep. Yeah, and as we showed with, who was that at the plate? Kyle Seager, was that?
Kyle Seager punched out, or Brad Miller punched out looking that
fastball we saw from the side that up at the front of the plate.
Seager's at bat.
Yeah, was a strike. I mean, it was high enough. And likely the same case here. Line shot to center field. Going to hang up a bit. And the catch made by Austin Jackson. So 2 outs here in the inning. Here's the one to Presley, front of the plate, and that's where you have to look. Does it catch the knees from that angle? And that's probably not the angle you want, but I would say, yeah.
And again, you keep saying it, it's where it crosses at the front of the plate. It's not where he catches it.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of crazy we have to keep saying it, but you got to keep reminding yourself that that's a big difference. That's that's a good 3 or 4 feet
right
behind home plate where he's catching it in comparison to the front of the plate.
Jose Altuve's 0 for 2 on his night, and every at bat big right now for Jose Altuve, who is trying to hold off hard charging Victor Martinez.
He's got to go out here and try and do it against King Felix, who has an unbelievable changeup.
15,617 on hand here this evening. Really a shame.
It's too bad.
Got the Mariners trying to hang on to a playoff spot. Ball and a strike on Jose. See the headline today about the plays at home plate, the collision rule, and their Major League Baseball is trying to come up with a new clarification on that rule for the catcher and the runners sliding in, because it's gone back and forth all year.
I saw the headline. I didn't read the article, and I think it's a little premature for them to come out and say something. I would have liked to have seen them just go into the offseason. I know they're trying to set up for the playoffs.
Yes.
For making some of these calls, and it is September, so there's going to be calls at home plate that could have an effect on the outcome of maybe a playoff race. But I even think they're going to have to look at it over the offseason too, because it's a mess on who's interpreting what.
Well, I think my impression is they needed to get something done before they had the playoffs and have it come up again, where I'm sure some of the umpires are on the field thinking, I don't even want to call this because it's going to get overturned. And again, we've seen it go back and forth this year.
Well, that's the problem when it goes back to the replay booth. Wow.
Well, that's not even close. The fastball.
It's big.
3-1 on Altuve.
When that home plate call eventually makes its way back to New York, you can't even anticipate what's going to come out of New York, because we've seen it go 2 or 3 different ways when it finally comes out of there.
Jose Altuve hitting .339. Make it .338 with the 0 for 2. Victor Martinez of the Tigers is at 337, so it's a 1-point spread right now. So now 3-2. That'll put Matt Dominguez on the move.
Just a turbo sinker at 91.
Wow. Is that a sinker or the changeup? Because he'll get the changeup up to 90.
It was Mike Scott-esque. No comment?
No comment. Let's move on. There goes Matty D, and then back to the bag.
And Altuve, with all those hits he's getting, he's got some big hits to drive in runs. I'd like to see him shoot a gap right here. There's a big one in left center field if he can get something hanging out over the plate.
Dominguez on the move. The pitch in the dirt, and Altuve draws the walk. Comes with 2 outs, puts runners at first and second for Dexter Fowler. No, I'll just say Mike Scott had some really good stuff. Scotty, I hope you're listening.
I think that's a pretty good analysis, Ash.
Thanks. Because part of the time I do that analyst role.
Quite well.
Oh, you're a kind man with a very nice hairdo.
Yeah, it's just a foregone conclusion. But I appreciate you mentioning it again.
Your day is coming, though.
Enjoying it while I can.
Off speed, and Fowler out in front. Tried to wait for it. Dexter has singled and struck out. It's got to be a bit of a tough night for Jose Altuve facing Felix Hernandez. Fly ball to left field, shallow. Coming on is Chavez. He'll get there and make the catch. That'll do it for Houston in the 5th. They leave a pair as they get a hit and a walk. Still scoreless. Sportsnet is presented by TXU Energy. Get TXU Energy free nights, free electricity all year long. Now with even more free hours. Call 1-866-CALL-TXU. How about that downtown Seattle? Gorgeous Safeco Field. It's kind of the a little bit the rougher part of the area, but up the hill. Really gorgeous stuff. And then there's the Puget Sound.
It is.
Fastball at the knees to start the inning.
What does that mean?
I don't know. The Puget Sound?
Yeah. Is a sound a bay?
I don't know how. What is?
We're going to have to go to the locals.
We've got a couple of locals here in the booth, but I'm not sure that's the best place to turn. What do you think?
You made the call. I'm going to leave that on you.
You asked me about Mike Scott. I'm going to tell you about these guys.
How about Brad Peacock? 0-2.
Yes, sir. Top of the order, Austin Jackson, Endy Chavez, and Robinson Cano. 4 hits for the Astros, 3 for the M's. And strike 3 called, caught looking Austin Jackson. That's 5 strikeouts for Brad Peacock. He's just 1 back of Felix Hernandez, and Brad Peacock standing tall.
Not sure Austin Jackson's had enough time to realize he was in the box before he got punched out right there.
It's a bad feeling, isn't it?
Oh man, you just feels like you stepped into the box. It's an 0-2 count, and then that last pitch you get painted on right there.
You know,
great job by Peacock.
I bet a lot of people would be surprised the number of times a major league hitter goes back to the dugout, sits down, and just thinks, I wasted that at bat.
Yeah, oh,
total waste.
It is not a good feeling as a big leaguer.
But I'm sure you can second that. I mean,
no, yeah, you do. I mean, yeah, you look back at your AP and they're like, I had 2 pitches to swing at right there. Why didn't I get the bat off my shoulders? And then, but that you always talk about it as a hitter. Don't give away at bats, and it's frustrating.
Peacock right in front again. Ball and a strike. Endy Chavez at the plate 0 for 2. And Robinson Cano waits on deck. So always a lot of motivation to get the guys in front of Robinson Cano. And then there's Kyle Seager a couple of slots later.
Radar gun said 92, but judging by the swing, it was about 97.
Pretty good heater blown by. Again, the high fastball fouled back this time. When you talk offenses in the American League, Seattle, like the Astros, just under the 4 runs per game mark. In fact, Seattle just a tick in front of the Astros. 10th and 11th in the league. There's a base hit into center field. 1-out single for Endy Chavez. He is aboard now for Robinson Cano.
We saw the fastball get blown by Endy Chavez early in this at bat. Maybe did him a little bit of a favor, even though we got it off the end of the bat with that breaking ball.
Cano has doubled his 33rd of the year, that back in the 1st inning, and then was walked intentionally in the 3rd. That put runners at 1st and 2nd. Morales then flied out. Seager struck out. And so Tom Lawless saw things go his way in that 3rd inning. The Angels, by the way, lead the American League in runs per game, followed by Detroit, Oakland, and Minnesota.
They have been destroying the baseball. We talked about it before the game today. In the 5-game span that they've had where they've won 5 straight, it was something ridiculous, like 50 runs, 70 hits. I mean, it was amazing what that offense is doing right now.
You know, the Tigers still lead in team batting average by 15 points in front of the Angels, 276 to 261. The Tigers even lead in OPS. And they were the team that was supposed to have the invincible pitching staff.
It's amazing that a pitching staff, well, that gives you an idea how good the pitching staff is or should be in Detroit, because it overshadows that offense, because that's a pretty potent offense.
I wonder if some people would say least valuable player this year, Justin Verlander. Kind of unfair, but he's had that kind of a season. Robinson Cano will not take a lot of really bad swings, but he did right here.
He's going to have to pick up his gear because he has no idea that it's just 2 outs right there.
Yeah, I think he thought that was the 3rd out of the inning.
You don't normally see guys chuck their gear until the 3rd out, and they got to go out and play defense. But
so he'll head back to the bench. 2nd strikeout in the inning. 6 strikeouts for Peacock, matching Felix Hernandez. And now it brings up the cleanup man, Kendry Morales.
But in Verlander's defense, everything he's done up until this year has been pretty incredible.
Oh, the guy's, you know what?
It's a lot to put on a guy.
Cy Young, MVP. There weren't enough awards to hand his way. But you wonder, have the innings taken their toll?
Yeah, it does make you wonder.
I mean, he was the guy, and I said it, and I was just among the choir, that he could dial it up, it seemed, at any point and get to 100 miles an hour. He had the best arm going in the game.
You got to see that no-hitter in Toronto,
yep,
did you not?
That's correct. And just phenomenal. The tapper foul. Literally, he could get to the 5th inning and say, "Oh, I've got a no-hitter," and turn things up from about 94, 95 to 98 to 100, and just steady.
And much like King Felix has, 4 legitimate put-away pitches.
Yeah. Well, Verlander had the slider. He had great changeup and a curveball.
Yep.
It's not working this year. Max Scherzer. He might be as tough as anybody. Yeah. David Price now a part of that rotation. They've picked up Price, and things haven't gotten better. See Scott Downs getting loose in the pen. Not Scott Downs. Darren Downs, excuse me. That's one of the bad things. Scott Downs was a member of the bullpen for years that I worked with, but this would be a different Downs.
There's
Darren.
Yeah.
Sometimes goes by Scott.
Scott was a left-handed pitcher also. How about the A's losing to the White Sox in 12? Wow. 5-4. Ooh. What is going on?
Two and two, 2 outs. Pitch it in the air, gap in left center field. Long run for Fowler. He'll get there and make the play. That'll do it for these Mariners in the 5th inning. They get a hit and leave him, man, as we stay zippo.
Rewind, and it is all about the pitchers. King Felix, who we expected this going into this game, he's got electric stuff, having himself a Cy Young type year. 200 plus innings, 200 plus strikeouts. He's got the fastball, changeup, curveball working, but he's being matched well by Brad Peacock, showing a great idea of what he's doing with his stuff. Breaking ball's working good, but he's also doing an unbelievable job of locating that fastball on the outer edges and working both sides of the plate. Breaking ball's working good. Seen a couple sliders put guys away.
So Brad Peacock and Felix Hernandez, 5 innings apiece, each allowing 4 hits, both shutting out their opposition. Few walks have happened tonight, but 6 strikeouts for each right-hander. It has been very well pitched. We'll see if we see any more of Peacock.
Ooh.
Chris Carter leads off and drills one into left field. He got a fastball, hung it out. And Felix Hernandez may be fortunate that Chris Carter squared this one up a little solidly right there, unable to get under it.
He actually hit that one perfectly. It's a good thing he didn't get that thing elevated.
How about that short stroke?
It was beautiful. That ball was stung.
Leadoff single. Jason Castro comes to the plate. So Carter's 1 for 3 on the night. Hit number 5 for Houston. And it looks like it could be the end of the line for Brad Peacock tonight, but any way you look at it, he's going to feel really good about this one, going out there against Felix Hernandez and matching it.
I'll tell you what, if I'm in that Mariners dugout, I'm like, please take him out.
Yeah, he's been that good tonight.
He's answered punch for punch with King Felix. Tap on the shoulder might be an indication that you're right, Ash.
Yeah. You know, there have been times where, and I'll just speak for myself, I haven't felt that Brad Peacock was the most confident guy going on the rotation. But he's got reason to start feeling like he belongs here right now.
We saw him finish last year in a similar fashion, pitching pretty well. Nice to see the Astros pick up a run right here for the kid.
Felix Hernandez fighting for his life here. And again in the dirt, it kicks away from Zunino. And that'll afford Carter the shot to get into second base. So still nobody out. Carter in scoring position. And we check in with Julia.
Ash, you were talking about Peacock over there getting the attaboy. He's been getting a lot of them, including from pitching coach Brent Strom. But this goes with the story that Tom Wallace was telling us earlier about him and Brent Strom having to have all these discussions. How are they going to get all of the arms that are in the bullpen some work? There's a lot of guys they need to see right now, and it's just hard to find a place for them to pitch.
That's intriguing, and so that would explain a little bit as to why Peacock may only go 5 innings tonight. It's a tough choice, though.
It's a real tough choice.
Castro unable to put the ball in play and move Carter into third base, down on strikes. Second time for Castro tonight. He's 0 for 3. A big first out brings up Marwin Gonzalez.
So Peacock doesn't have any incentive clauses for innings pitched.
Ooh, that would be.
Could you imagine that? They're going to call from the agent going, hey, man.
A little inflammatory there.
I know you want to see this guy pitch, but my boy is doing good. Rack up the innings.
Marwin is 1 for 2 with a double. His 13th. Line went down the left field side in the 4th inning. Got some strange goings on in Major League Baseball with the standings right now.
Yeah.
The Oakland A's with that loss tonight, 7.5 back of the Angels.
Is that not? Yeah, we were looking at that. That just doesn't add up. Well, if the Mariners pull off a win here, they sneak within a game of the A's for the top spot in the wild card.
Yeah, for the moment, that wild card chase in the American League is kind of up for grabs. And you can't say that the Oakland A's have any momentum on their side.
That is true.
Tigers would be in pretty much that same category. 1-2 the count on Marwin.
Those 4 runs they scored today in Chicago must look like an explosion.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, you run into those times where offensively it just feels like every run you score might be the last one. Like, how do you do this? That's the way this game feels. Scoreless through 5.
Yeah, but this is how September baseball is supposed to be played. You're supposed to be hanging on every pitch.
Yeah, and I guess I would add that you would hope that when your club has a shot that you'd have some more fans in the stands than Seattle has here this evening. I would have thought 25,000-30,000 would be
nice expectation for Seattle.
Yeah, if you're a finicky fan and you boycott the first 5 months, man, this September and your ball club's in contention, that's when you start showing up.
You know, September's a little bit of a hard month. You've got school back in. Darwin is down on strikes. Felix Hernandez turning to the curveball to pick up a couple of strikeouts, getting Castro and Gonzalez. And now it's up to John Singleton. But school's back in, and football, college, and professional, and all of that starting. And it's a tough battle.
Didn't look like there were too many issues on that Thursday night football game here in Seattle.
No, they didn't have their problems bringing the fans in.
It was pretty much a celebration for everything they did last year, though.
They may be celebrating all year. Singleton has walked and struck out looking. But this is good September baseball, where you've got the solid pitching, play some D behind them, scratch and claw for the runs you can get.
Pitchers making big pitches. This is great.
Two 2-0 the count. Putting on deck Matt Dominguez. First base is open. I wouldn't think that Singleton would be a guy they would try to pitch around. Strikeout numbers for Singleton and Springer rather alarming.
Yeah, they're actually spot on almost in games and the amount.
No swing. It's 3-0. That 2-0 curveball might say that it's a bit of a pitch around here. Felix Hernandez has walked 3 on his night. Big John hitting 176 takes a strike.
Felix throws that same pitch. I expected a rather large swing from John Singleton at it.
93 miles an hour. Is that about as high as we've seen from Felix tonight?
That's the average he's pitching at. Yeah, but I think for tonight, I think 93 is what he's topped out at.
You go back 3-4 years, he had a little more velocity. He walked Singleton for the second time. 4th walk issued, and now runners at first and second. 2 outs for Matt Dominguez. No updated wild card standings. That's with tonight's Oakland loss.
And if Seattle wins, they sneak into 1 game behind.
So you've got the Tigers just locked in right now with Seattle. Wow. You know, the Indians have to be kind of looking around at themselves and thinking, hey boys, we might have a shot here.
Could you imagine if it turns out to be Mariners Indians, Mariners Detroit, and the Oakland A's are nowhere to be found?
What if the Oakland A's and Detroit Tigers both wind up falling out of this thing?
Wow.
Boy, that would surprise just about every person that thinks they know something about baseball.
Yeah, they'll be talking about that one and overanalyzing that.
Mike Zunino briefly out talking with Felix Hernandez.
That's a possibility. There's a possibility of an Indians-Mariners matchup in that wild card 1-game playoff.
1 game, battle it out to move on. 2-0 the count. Dominguez the 8 hitter, to be followed by Alex Presley. Matty D picked up an infield single, little roller to third base. Barehanded effort by Kyle Seager in the 5th inning. Seager dropped it, and Dominguez got the base hit. And now offers on the 2-0 as he fouls it back. You know, there've got to be some tight folks, players, fans, front office involved with those clubs. 3-1. Felix Hernandez struggling here in the 6th inning.
So you're only sitting on pins and needles if you're a Detroit Tiger or an Oakland A. The other guys, they're just having a blast being in the race for the wild card.
Ground ball to third, handled by Seager. He'll throw on to first base, and that'll do it. So the Astros had a threat, couldn't make it pay off. We're still scoreless.
No score between the Astros and the Mariners. What is that guy eating? All right, Astros Fan Appreciation Day is Sunday, September 21st, when the Astros face the Mariners in the season's final home game. 10,000 fans will receive a 2014 team poster courtesy of the Houston Chronicle. Also, every half inning we will be giving away prizes to lucky fans throughout the ballpark. Guys.
Thanks, Julia. Looking in the dugout there, looks like it might be the end of the evening for Felix Hernandez.
He's right at 99 pitches. Lloyd McClendon has talked about giving him an extra day's rest. His numbers are extremely good with that extra day's rest. He's already up well over 200 innings.
That's Rick Waits, the pitching coach, chatting with Felix Hernandez, and that's a tough assignment to tell a guy that wants to compete that you're done for your night.
I don't know if he's too upset about handing it over to his bullpen the way they've been throwing all year.
Boy, we mentioned that ERA for Seattle's bullpen well below 2.5. Just phenomenal numbers. So it doesn't get any easier for the Astros. Kyle Seager, the 5-hitter, leads it off here in the 6th inning. Darren Downs takes over on the hill. Brad Peacock, just a terrific night. Downs with his first offering. "29 years of age is Darren Downs. And this is his 41st appearance of the season.
We haven't seen Darren since August 14th.
Been a while. He knocks down a soft liner and gets up to make the play, throwing out Seager in the first out here in the 6th.
It was one of those swinging changeups. See, the initial reaction was, oh gosh, but he was able to get both hands up there and get the glove on it, thankfully. It's a little bit of a welcome back after about a month and a half. Or a month.
That'll get the adrenaline going if nothing else did.
Yeah, if he didn't have a pulse before, he sure does now.
Oh, 1 out. It's a big man in Kyle Seager. We'll bring up the first baseman, Logan Morrison. Morrison has doubled his 14th. That came in the 2nd inning and struck out. know, there were none of those moments for Brad Peacock tonight where it felt like he had lost the command.
Not at all.
Seemed to be with him all the way.
Kept his poise. That was good to see. And that's we talk about the psyche of pitchers all the time, but he really kept his poise. There weren't too many situations that got out of control, but still he had base runners behind him and worked out of it.
Most of the time you can look around Major League Baseball and see that home records are better than road records, and I don't know why that is. I don't. Maybe you have the answer to that, but for Seattle that hasn't been the case this year.
Yeah, you really can't blame. I mean, this one is baffling to me. Those are amazing numbers.
Well, you can take the Astros and look at their home versus road, and you know, it makes sense. 35 and 39 at home, but for Seattle, look at those numbers.
Playing 500, you usually expect those numbers to be flipped. You want to try and play 500 on the road and have a 42 and 28 record. That's second best behind the LA Dodgers, who are 43 and 28. I mean, that's just incredible.
The Astros saw Seattle come into Houston as the one-out walk is issued to Morrison. It brings up the powerful Mike Zunino. But Seattle came into Houston. There's about a month and a half ago or so, and I mean, they brought the lumber in that series.
I remember seeing that.
De Leon now gets loose in the Astros pen. And the skip, Tom Lawless, coming out to the mound. So Lawless is going to grab the baseball from Downs. That'll do it as Downs faces just two hitters. Leaves with a man at first base. And Mike Zunino coming to the plate. So they'll bring on the right-hander, De Leon, to get the job done.
Of the sixth during this pitching change, and we're going to take a look at our upcoming schedule. It's presented by Progressive. 2 more night games here in Seattle before a late night flight takes us down to Los Angeles of Anaheim, Costa Mesa, Orange County region. And we're going to have a weekend series against those Angels down there in Southern California. Get back to some of that sun and warm, and then it's back home to Houston for more baseball against contending teams, and those Indians are going to be chomping at the bit to try and get back into that wild card. Only 4 games back, maybe 3.5 now that the A's have lost, and then a weekend to finish off the last homestand against the Seattle Mariners.
So right-hander Jorge De Leon comes on now to pitch for the Astros.
He looks young.
Well, he ought to be young. He's found the fountain of youth along the way, right? Pitched in 46 games in the minor leagues this year. Last year pitched in 11 games for Houston. Ten innings of work last year, allowed 12 hits and 6 earned runs. Oh, and misses on a very close pitch.
Like a pretty good pitch. Seen a lot of strikes called down for Mark Carlson back there behind the plate, but not for De Leon on that first pitch.
Put together a nice season in 46 games this year, 3.01 ERA in the minor leagues. 2-0 the count. They've got all these arms now with call-ups and everything that's gone on, and the starting staff has been really good, and so the bullpen has had less work, and suddenly you've got this buildup of guys that need to get some work. And as
that makes it tough for a manager.
Yeah. You've got that obligation to yourselves and to baseball to go out and try to beat these teams that are trying to get into the postseason. But you've also got an obligation to get these guys some work and develop them. So it is a tough one.
How about some of these kids coming out of the bullpen and being thrust into some playoff contention type situations?
Is it good for these guys or otherwise?
A lot of it depends on how well they do, but I think it's a good thing to have them out there. You're not just coming in trying to get some innings in. Not only are you trying to impress your new manager, you're trying to go out there and beat another team in a big situation.
I think it's a great thing.
You're not going to, I mean, you don't get to the big leagues not to be in big situations.
Kevin Chapman, the left-hander, getting loose for Houston. But I agree. Zunino down on strikes. So De Leon falls behind and then comes back to get Zunino. Second out here in the inning. Runner still at first base. It brings up Michael Saunders, the left-hand hitter. So the first man that De Leon faces in the bigs this year, he strikes out.
Yeah, he doesn't seem too fazed right now by the situation.
De Leon debuted in the major leagues last year, August 9th against the Texas Rangers. Fastball on that tough side for a catcher. Saunders 1 for 2 on the night, has hit in 5 straight. And a strike on the outside edge.
95 on the black.
Decent arm.
Real decent. I've already seen the good slider. Now he's just got the paintbrush out at 95 miles an hour. Nice live arm.
Two and one. How are your Bolts coming now?
They're up 10-6. Rivers to Floyd for the touchdown.
Runs being scored, huh?
Runs, points, yeah.
De Leon, lifetime in the minor leagues. Career that began in 2010. He's 14 and 22. He's made 17 starts along the way. That's kind of hard to figure, though, with the way the staffs pitch anymore, where you've got the piggyback thing going on. Three-one pitch. Maybe offering on ball 4 was Saunders. That'll fill it, 3-2. Logan Morrison will be on the move from first base. John Singleton still holding at the bag. And he'll stay there. Different philosophies for different managers. And a throw over.
Nice play.
It's amazing how many pitchers will try to make that perfect catch tag type throw. And how many errors will result in doing so. Runner goes, the pitch fouled left side.
the 3-2 pitch.
The crowd for the M's gets behind their ball club. We do the 3-2 once again. Runner on the move, and again it's fouled back.
Saunders having a tough time laying off that up and away heater.
So with De Leon not getting a lot of work, are we looking at a high-end version of his fastball, or is this what he brings?
That's the problem, is if you're not seeing these guys on a regular basis, you don't know what the routine is or how electric that arm can be on a consistent basis. But for right now, kid's well rested and he's letting it fly.
You know, there were some 95-plus arms for the Astros in the bullpen last year that still had a tough time getting outs.
Going 3-2 slider.
Tapper foul. Scoreless ball game. 5 Houston hits, 4 for Seattle. Haven't seen an error on the night. De Leon brings it with the runner going, and again fouling it back is Saunders. Are we learning anything?
Yeah, we are. We're learning that Logan Morrison is getting slower on his jumps from first.
He's going to need some more conditioning.
Yeah, he's getting some sprint work here.
My analysis.
It's late in the season. We'll cut him a little bit of slack.
You know, there was Jose Cisnero last year. Of course, he's had the arm surgery. Reiner Cruz. That might have been the best velocity arm of the bunch. Again, the runner goes. This one inside. 2-out walk to Saunders. 2 walks in the inning. Runners at first and second for the 9-hitter Brad Miller. So yeah, it's tough when you start trying to assemble that bullpen. We talked about Seattle and the great success they've had, and Kansas City with those big time arms, but the big time arms don't always succeed.
Yeah, even though you're throwing 95 plus, you still got to be able to locate, and you got to have that secondary pitch, especially coming out of the bullpen, because if you know as a hitter you can go up there and key on one pitch and eliminate one other one.
Ground ball up the middle, base hit. This is going to score a run, the first of the ball game. Into third base is Saunders, and a big RBI single by Brad Miller. So De Leon gives it up here in the 6th inning.
That might have been the situation there where a couple of good sliders early on from De Leon, but earlier in this game, the first couple of bats from Brad Miller, he was really attacking the fastball early in the count. And De Leon, realizing he wanted to get ahead in this situation, wanted to hit that outside corner, but this one floated back over the middle of the plate. And with the way the defensive alignment was, Miller found that hole right back up the box and got that big RBI for the Seattle Mariners.
Now the 1-out walk issued by Darren Downs, costly here in the 6th inning. Then another walk issued by De Leon, that to Saunders. Brad Miller the base hit, and now the top of the order with Austin Jackson.
Now you want to see if De Leon, you want to make sure he keeps his composure and doesn't panic and goes after this hitter right here. There's 2 outs. If you can minimize the damage to 1 run, that's still a decent inning. Keep your team within striking distance.
It's a strike on the appeal.
You see how Tuve played way over.
And just that gap up the middle on the right side.
And if he's playing 2 steps to his right, I'm not sure he gets to that one. Miller hit that ball really well.
Hit, yeah. By the way, I was looking at some of the numbers in the minor leagues this year for Reiner Cruz. Just 20 innings of work this year. Not a whole lot to look at. A good ERA at 2.25. 0-2 the count. 96 from De Leon. But I think we saw Reiner Cruz last year go 94 to 97 fairly regular.
Yeah, he did. Sharp slider. It's just walks. Saw a lot of fastballs out of the zone.
Just away, 1-2 the count. Well, even what was surprising for me with Reiner Cruz last year with his electric arm, in 21 innings, 25 hits allowed.
Yep. I think that goes to the location.
We're in the 6th inning, 1-0 Seattle now. Runner goes, the pitch grounded up the middle off the glove of De Leon, but right there Altuve to make the play. 1-4-3 to retire the leadoff man Austin Jackson. Seattle takes the lead after 6.
It's 1-0. As promised earlier in the game, we have the AT&T fan photo of the game, and tonight it's Joseph tweeting this photo of himself and a special someone at the ballgame. Tweet your photo to hashtag CSNHFanPhoto for a chance to be shown in an upcoming broadcast that's brought to you by AT&T, guys.
Thanks, Julia. Don't go away. We've got a little time as Brandon Maurer comes in now, pitcher number 2 for Seattle tonight. You were talking about routines for the players, Julia. What's your routine when you come to the ballpark every day?
I got a lot of things I got to do. Should I read these tweets, though? Let me read these tweets real quick.
Sure.
Well, this was our Twitter question. How excited are you about the Astros' increased win total? We've got more than excited. I've been a fan throughout the whole rebuild, and it's awesome to see it all come together. And then watching these guys this year has been amazing. So many improvements, big and small. We as fans have so much to be proud of. Ash, I have a serious routine, but a lot of it has to do with work.
Well, part of it is sitting in my seat every day,
well,
right?
yes. Let's do a little research, but I do have to talk to the guys. I got to talk to Lawless. It's a serious routine.
Well, it works, whatever you're doing. Julia Morales, the best in the biz. Alex Presley leads off now here in the 7th inning. The Astros down a run. Brandon Maurer has come on, and he gets in front 0-2 on Presley. Brandon Maurer, a guy who started for Seattle as a youngster a little bit last year, a little bit early on this year, but really struggled. And since moving to the pen, it has brought out the beast in his arm.
Must have been really inflated as a starter. They're pretty big.
He got roughed up, and quite frankly, his stuff was fairly mid-pack, yeah. But in the bullpen now, he's got that arm that'll go 97 plus. There you see 97. One of those guys that when you give him the chance to work 1 to 2 innings can just flat light up the radar gun.
Apparently, good grief.
just off the edge. 1-2 the count. And again, it's just kind of part of what Seattle does with this bullpen. They'll run some large heat at you once they go to the pen. Down on strikes, Presley. Pitch out of the strike zone. But tough to lay off. Out number 1 here in the 7th inning. Robbie Grossman stands in. Robbie's 1 for 3 on the night. Also has stolen a base. His 6th of the year. Robbie hitting .212 with that base hit. Hey, get down a run against Seattle. Felix Hernandez can take advantage and be the winner if Seattle holds on and wins this ball game. But with that bullpen, that run is really tough to get back. Strike inside edge. Nice job by Zunino to just simply hold it right there. Didn't try to pull it. Just let the home plate umpire take a good look.
He definitely took his time and looked at it before making that call.
Seattle has their left-hander throwing. Furbush. Charlie Furbush. No commentary. Here's a high drive, deep right field. Back at the track, the wall. Leaping and not able to get to it is Saunders. And this one is a home run. Robbie Grossman has tied it up at 1. Just out of the reach of Michael Saunders. And that's how you get back in the ball game.
Robbie just said, what bullpen?
Home run number 7 for Robbie Grossman.
Saunders is arguing the point. He wants him to go look at it. The umpires are already conferring. Lloyd McClendon doesn't even need to come out of that dugout. Wonder if his glove got any part of that. Maybe brought it back a little bit. I'm sure we're going to have to take plenty of looks at it. Here you see a fastball down, and Robbie extends on it nicely. It's a big ballpark here at Safeco Field. This ball was up there for a long time, and Saunders is a big kid out there in right field. He's going to give it his best shot, but it looked like it went over that fence. It's tough with that concrete directly behind that wall. Oh, he brought it back.
Oh, he did.
How about that?
This is not going to be a home run.
Great call by Saunders to have them come out and look at this one. That was a great replay.
Saunders had this ball in his glove and then highlighted back right onto the field.
Good news, it's a hit. Bad news, it's a double.
Yeah, that changes things a bit, doesn't it?
Is that a triple or a double? I mean, if you're Tom Lawless, you could argue that the ball bounces back and he maybe gets a triple out of it, couldn't you?
Yeah, where do you determine that Robbie Grossman would have been had a home run not been signaled?
That's going to be the issue. I mean, they may have the call already, but most of the people here in Seattle are watching a replay where he has the ball going over the fence, but as soon as it comes back, it comes out of the glove.
Well, I think bottom line, we know it's not going to be a home run. Is it a double or a triple?
Where was the center fielder Austin Jackson? Robbie had his head down. I'm sure we're going to be looking at replays now to try and find out where the play goes. He put the ball at the 35-yard line, or did he get across midfield?
Was it a pass play or a run play?
There's a lot of moving parts on that one.
So we sit and wait just like you, the umpires, trying to figure out what are they going to find out from New York. These guys have got to make a decision right here on this one, don't they?
Do you look from up above and see where Robbie was when they picked it up?
It's at
third base. They gave him the triple.
Nice. Three-bagger. How about that?
I wonder if Lloyd's coming out wondering how and why, but I'm sure they've got a replay to reinforce that, and that's why they have cameras all over the place to check these things out.
Don't know if you saw when Robbie Grossman came out of the box, he was kind of in that I think I've got a home run semi-jog.
Wait a minute. Lloyd McClendon has
and Lloyd's saying, look, you guys signaled home run. That's why we defensively didn't go after this ball.
Well, pick up a base and throw it, please, Lloyd.
He says that's not right. You signaled home run. The defense shut it down when you signaled home run. And I would say, you know what, pretty good argument.
No, I agree, and I applaud Jeff Nelson for keeping his cool right here and trying to explain it to Lloyd. But a valid argument from Lloyd McClendon, I agree. As soon as you see the umpire signal home run, everybody has a tendency to shut it down.
Let's
but
see
I
if
really
we
didn't
can
see Robbie Grossman slow down at all when he was running around the bases.
No, not there. Yeah, he comes out of the box like, I think I got it. And now let's watch the two sides. Where is Robbie now? Just coming around first base.
But they're looking now.
Yeah. But when you said now, defensively, they've already seen the home run call. And I kind of like Lloyd's argument, but I very much like Robbie's placement at third base.
Well, I like that Robbie didn't give up on the play. He continued to run hard. He didn't break hard out of the box, but as soon as he saw the ball come back and play, he put his head down and went, and that worked out in his favor right there.
So it's a one-out triple. Robbie Grossman represents the tying run down at third base. And now Jose Altuve at the plate. Infield draws in. And unlike Bob Melvin in Oakland, the Oakland A's, or the Seattle Mariners rather, are going to go right after Jose Altuve. Breaking ball hit in the air, shallow in right field. This is going to be interesting. Saunders makes the catch. Here comes the throw. Here comes Grossman, and he's in there. Sac fly has tied it up. Jose Altuve gets the RBI. It's a 1-1 ball game.
What an amazing couple plays right here for Michael Saunders out there in right field. Number one, he makes an incredible play. That ball was a home run off of Robbie Grossman's bat. He brings it back, turns into a triple. Now he does a good job getting behind that. Wasn't exactly a clean exchange, but makes a strong throw to home plate, but Robbie Grossman beats it clean. I thought we were going to turn into play at home plate replay there for a while, but watching Zunino, he did a good job of giving that lane to Robbie Grossman.
So we're back even.
Wow.
Seattle scores a run in the 6th inning. The Astros respond immediately in the 7th. They get the triple from Robbie Grossman. Sac fly Altuve, who is still hitless on the night, 0 for 2, but he's walked. And the sac fly for Altuve, RBI number 50 on his terrific season. Dexter Fowler at the plate, 2 down now, and a hot shot off the body of Mauer. Miller with the play, and he'll get Dexter Fowler. That'll do it for Houston, but they get back even. And that huge play with Robbie Grossman getting the triple.
Follow all pennant races with MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball. Get live look-ins, replay, reviews, stats, highlights, the MLB.TV game of the day, hair updates, and more. Get this award-winning app for your smartphone or tablet for the rest of the season for only $9.99. Visit the App Store or go to MLB.com today.
You make me want it real bad right about now. Fourth pitcher of the night for Houston, Kevin Chapman, comes on as Tom Lawless is going to get this bullpen a little bit of work, huh?
Go in there and get that left-hander, Kevin Chapman.
Apparently, Lloyd McClendon got himself an early shower.
How about that? Apparently, you can't argue where the base runner is placed. That's his 6th of the season, 29th of the career, and no bases were harmed in the action.
Nice. I wonder if Lloyd knew that was a no-no, like balls and strikes.
Is that a no-no?
I don't know. That's what I'm kind of hearing. So Kevin Chapman now works in a tie game, 1-1 here in the bottom of the 7th. You face the 2, 3, and 4 spots for Seattle. Chris Denorfia, pinch hitter, will take over for Andy Chavez. Chavez went 1 for 3 on the night. Denorfia takes a strike. Right ahead is Kevin Chapman. And if you start saying that about Kevin Chapman, his fortune is going to go in the positive direction.
Sure is. For a left-hander, throws pretty firm in the low 90s.
Yeah, stuff's
seen
fine.
A couple of good sliders.
Stuff is fine. Strikes hard to find in the early goings in his career. But I think as he was sent down the last time, that he was flat told, look, you've got to get it together with coming out of the bullpen ready to throw strikes right away.
Big time. That was a huge issue. Moved over to that third base side of the rubber. Found that arm slot, and everything's been pretty good of late.
Ground ball left side. Matt Dominguez plays it well. He'll get the easy out. The first out here in the 7th. With 1 out, that brings up Robinson Cano. Are you feeling conflicted right about now?
I don't know what you're talking about, Ash. I'm locked in. As I look over your shoulder.
I think you're in denial. Robinson Cano has doubled and walked intentionally and struck out. When he struck out in the 5th inning, it was the 2nd out of that inning. On the scoreboard, anyway. Robinson Cano thought it was the 3rd out.
Happens to the best of them.
Just doesn't usually happen at home plate after a strikeout.
Nope.
Yeah, you know, if a rookie did that, everybody in management would be saying, well, he's got no focus. The pressure's getting to him. But when it happens to Robinson Cano, you just kind of privately chuckle and you move on. Cano hitting .321. He has been very, very good for Seattle. Mike Foltynewicz, the right-hander, getting loose for Houston in the bullpen. Seattle has a right-hander loosening as well. Cano takes a strike. 2-2 the count. For Kevin Chapman, always the big thing. Number 1, throwing strikes right away when he comes in, but also getting the left-handers and not walking them, which has been a big issue. But he's been turning a huge corner. Robinson Cano now 10 years in the major leagues, and he's a lifetime .310 hitter. 6-time All-Star. He was second in the Rookie of the Year voting back in '05. He's been as high as third in MVP voting. One of the game's great players. 2-time Gold Glove winner. In his case, I'd say that's shy of maybe where he should be. Kevin Chapman kind of blew him up right there.
Oh, he got deep in the kitchen. He might have found the pantry on that pitch right there.
Frigidaire heater.
Ooh.
Get that left-handed bat right now. Much easier said than done, though. Cano doesn't much care who's on the hill.
Exactly.
Breaking ball lined into left field. That's in the gap. Base hit. Grossman gets it back in quickly and well advised in doing so. Nice turn there at first base by Cano. He's held to a single with one out. It brings up the cleanup man, Kendry Morales.
Oh, man, that dude can flat out hit.
Yes, he can.
And one of the prettier swings you're going to see from the left side of the plate, too. There's just guys out there that just have an unbelievable ability to be able to put the barrel on the ball and find an open hole out there in the outfield to get those base hits. He is one of them.
We mentioned Mike Foltynewicz moments ago, warming in the Astros pen. So he's getting it loose. That puts Cano right at or just over the 300 mark against the lefties this year. Morales 0 for 3. All fly balls off the bat of the big switch hitter.
He's actually hit the ball hard a couple times.
Yes, he has.
First one was a bullet right at Dexter Fowler in center. Those were on the left side of the plate off of Brad Peacock. Now hitting right-handed.
He's the only guy I can ever think of that almost ended his career by hitting a game-winning home run.
I know, that was a catastrophic injury.
Back with the Angels.
Walk-off homer, jumps onto home plate and snapped that ankle. He was doing big things with the Angels at that time, too.
He was a big-time hitter. Good swing as he fouls it back. We're in the 7th inning, tied at 1. That career for Morales started with the Angels in '06. 34 home runs, 108 RBIs in '09, and now he's down on strikes. So Kevin Chapman gets Kendrys Morales, second out here in the inning. It brings up Kyle Seager. And by the way, back on that issue about Kevin Chapman and left-hand hitters and all that sort of thing, I don't have any problem with Cano getting the base hit. It would be the walk that would be bothersome.
Absolutely. We saw a lot of that. I know exactly what you're talking about. I just had visions or memories of those big situations with runners in scoring position and just walking guys and forcing people along the bases.
Yeah, we saw it a number of times. Left-handed bat of Kyle Seager at the plate. Shift on. Kyle Seager has been a really big-time performer for Seattle. Backs away on the breaking ball. It's a strike. Seager, an all-star this year. And of mentioned earlier in the ballgame, he's been really good defensively. This is a guy who made just 13 errors a couple of years ago, playing all year for Seattle at third, just 15 last year. What's a good year error-wise at third base in your opinion?
Say 10 to 15.
10 to 15.
15 might be a little much. I like it right around 10, to be honest with you, if I had to be brutally honest. I mean, just the amount of opportunities, you're getting some tough plays, yes, but I think if you can stay right around that 10 mark, you're having a great year.
Runner goes, swing and a miss. Down on strikes is Seager. Got a couple of strikeouts for Kevin Chapman. He yields the base hit, but he strands him. We're tied at 1 after 7. Jose Altuve continues his pursuit of Craig Biggio's single season hits mark as the Astros hope to make history right here at the expense of the Mariners' wild card hopes. Pre-game live starts tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. only on Comcast Sportsnet.
Let's see who Jose Altuve is going to try and get tomorrow in tomorrow's pitching matchup. It's going to be brought to you by Chevron. Care for your car. Colin McHugh going for the Houston Astros, trying to even out that record at 9-9. Had a great outing, his first outing as an Astro here at this ballpark when he struck out 12 in his last 5 starts. You can see the numbers pretty good, getting that ERA under 3. Going up against Roenis Elias.
Yeah, that was the start of big things for Colin McHugh. We had no idea.
Yeah, that he was going to keep it up. That was pretty impressive stuff.
And the thing is, he has kept it up, and he just continues to impress.
It's amazing he's got a sub-500 record with a 2.89 ERA.
Danny Farquhar now comes on, pitcher number 3 for Seattle.
I think his 58th appearance out of that bullpen, another great ERA. Walk to strikeout ratio is fantastic. Right-handers having an extremely tough time against him.
One other change defensively, Chris Denorfia, who came on as a pinch hitter, is in left field. Two balls and no strikes. Chris Carter, one of those tough guys to try to pitch to start an inning when you come out of the bullpen. You want to throw strikes, but you don't want to leave one fat for this guy.
That's exactly right. It doesn't matter what ballpark you're at, big, small.
Well, and the fact of the matter is, he's lit up this ballpark. Carter takes a strike. I don't know, I wouldn't have minded seeing Carter unloading on the 3-0, but
his personality doesn't scream 3-0 swinger. He's just a little more subdued. He'll see another pitch.
You know, you're right. And yet I want to recall that he's had a couple of 3-0 big swings for the club this year.
I'd like to see him do it more often, especially the way he's been getting the barrel to the baseball. Because that 3-0 pitch was a much better pitch to hit than that 3-1.
And the leadoff walk. Carter takes it. That'll bring up Jason Castro. Let's check in with Julia once again.
Thanks, Ash. As Castro comes up, I got to catch up with him, Robbie Gross, and some other guys about the style that Tom Lawless uses when he manages. He said earlier, I guess earlier in the week, he's told us that he was an old school manager, likes the small ball, and if guys aren't getting enough hits, then he will tell you to put down the bunt. And we've seen a lot lately from these guys in the past couple of games, a lot of sacrifice bunts, guys.
Yeah, that's intriguing. I think you always want to know what is the style of a particular manager. I wonder if that would evolve for a guy now as he just kind of starts his road as a major league manager.
You may have one style, but it kind of adjusts. You got to adapt to your roster also. That was a strike.
Dan Dickerson didn't seem to think he agreed. That could be a little bit low.
Yeah, we've seen the zone down, but that might have been pushing it a little bit.
0-2 is the count on Castro. Eighth inning, 6 hits for each club, 1 run on the board for each team. And a 1-2 count. Jeff Blum likes himself some extra innings.
Yeah,
some of us feel otherwise.
I've got some stories to tell.
Well, you can go ahead and unload right now. Feel free.
I was say, you keep scratching out all the notes I'm making around here and getting all mad at me and yelling at me. This is a good game.
Castro down on strikes, not happy with himself. Third strikeout for Jason tonight as he's 0 for 4. It brings up Marwin Gonzalez. I just think you ought to make your notes more constructive. That's all.
I'm preparing you. I'm trying to offer some insight.
You want some insight? That's 10 strikeouts of Houston hitters tonight.
Yes, it is. Hat trick for Jason Castro.
Out number 1 here in the 8th inning. Marwin's 1 for 3 with a double. You know, this is tough. And you learn a little something as a manager. You're late in the ball game, a tie game. You've got Carter at first base. Do you pinch run? Do you lose that bat for possible extra innings, for possibly even the 9th inning?
So we've seen that a couple times too. I would imagine if he gets to second base with 1 out, then you might be looking at maybe a really tough call. And we've seen it happen before where they pinch run for him once he gets into scoring position. But you're asking a lot by taking out one of your biggest sticks in that lineup.
Totally agree. I did some minor league managing, and rosters are different there than a major league roster, but you still can wind up with that guy or two in the batting order that you just don't feel like you can afford to take out of the batting order. Runner goes, and now in safely is Chris Carter on what turns out to be a close play. The Astros catch a break.
That was the old-fashioned delayed steal, it looked like. Caught the Mariners sleeping. They were taking a nap on Chris Carter. Watch Chris Carter shuffle, go. And there's nobody covering, and Zunino had nowhere to throw it.
You know, I think Zunino could have thrown this ball right up chest high over the bag and maybe taken a shot. But for the Astros, this works out perfectly.
Well, that's pretty darn close, by the way.
That slide didn't have a whole lot of steam in it once it finally got to the bag. What are we going to check here?
Are you serious? They're going to check this?
Is this on the call at second?
Yeah, because Lloyd McClennan's been ejected. So the bench coach is going out there to double check. I thought it was the pitching coach going to talk to Farquhar about maybe the situation, but
I don't think this is going to.
Was out there.
I don't think this is going to yield any fruit for Seattle.
I can't imagine.
We talked about the Astros and the running game and its effectiveness, and I think Chris Carter has just added to the numbers.
Did you see that?
That's close.
That's real close.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's enough to change it from that angle.
You know what? With that tag coming in on the top of the foot of Carter, I think it's going to be near impossible to change.
Was it me, or did Carter just never get to the bag? It seemed like
it felt that way to me. 4th stolen base. Let's go ahead and declare it right now, because I'm going to say this is going to stand. How do you feel? Ooh, you're not quite so convinced.
I'm just wondering why you thought he needed a pinch runner. Stole a bag. Here's a good look at it.
Yeah. It's a bad group of fellows here in the booth. That's a stolen base.
Yeah, that's a stolen
clear
base.
cut.
It's a good look at it, too.
Yeah.
All right, here we go, boys.
We're still evaluating this play. Why does it take that long in New York when you can see what we just saw?
I don't know. I think we need to put our truck guys in New York to help them out.
Are they listening to music? Is there something going on here?
You know
we
what
don't
it
know
is?
about?
They're getting an update. They're finding out that the Chargers are only leading by 5 points out there in Arizona. 17-12 Bolts over the Cards. And the fans apparently are applauding for the Chargers. No, they're looking at the replay on the big screen. And they just saw the same angle we saw, but they seemed a lot more happy about it than we thought they would be.
I think
oh boy,
folks here in Seattle just retracted a hot dog offer for the fans, and that's why the reaction came that way.
It was a bad snap.
Well,
what are you talking
where's
about?
your head? What are you doing?
Well, we got plenty of time to talk about it. My gosh.
Okay, so go ahead and talk NFL. Look, this is safe, is it not?
I don't see him touching him until that's not contact.
No.
His glove doesn't stop until after Chris's foot's on the bag.
You know, that wasn't one of those snap, throw it down tags either.
Yeah.
A little bit reachy.
Nick Novak's back to punt.
Go ahead.
Puts it high. Fair catch is called at the 10. It'll be Cardinals ball at the 9 next time we come back from this commercial break.
Who are you rooting for in that one?
The San Diego Chargers, for crying out loud, Alan.
Well, you don't live in San Diego.
I'm near enough. What other football team in Southern California am I going to cheer for?
We just have received the safe call down at second base.
That's it. We need to get in the replay booth.
I just cannot understand why that took that long. But they got it right. Stolen base for Chris Carter, his 4th of the year, as he is becoming one of the league's big stolen base guys.
Literally.
And now in scoring position at second with Marwin at the plate.
Man, that was
a 1-1 count on Marwin. Now, are you going to analyze some baseball or some NFL?
Well, now we're back to baseball after that. That was disappointing.
2-1 the count. Well, I thought it was very good that Carter was called safe at second. Ball stands, which means they didn't get an affirmative he's safe. Here's a fly ball to center field. It's going to be easy for Austin Jackson. Chris Carter goes back and tags, but he just simply bluffs as the throw comes in on a hop to third. 2 outs. That'll bring up John Singleton.
Tom Wallace would like to see somebody step up and get that big hit for the Houston Astros.
And you know, the thing is, when you get to this stage of the ball game, both bullpens involved, statistically advantage hugely to Seattle.
Yes.
Rick Waits, the pitching coach, comes out.
Yeah, but if the game was played on paper, well, they wouldn't have any players in the dugouts. Just go ahead and fire a couple of numbers into the computer and see what happened.
But instead, there are plenty of players. It's September, after all.
And it's good to see the Astros playing in some of these tough games against contending teams. Good job.
Tom Lawless and Adam Everett in charge of the fellas. Boy, those have been good hands to be in here over the last a little less than a week.
It's been nice. Wallace is 4-1 in his early managerial career.
The one loss was a ball game that simply got away in the 9th inning.
Could have been an easy win, yeah.
Of course, one of the wins was one that was plattered back to the Astros.
Taking any way you can get them.
Singleton takes that first strike. You know, I got kind of fired up today, Blummer, about hearing that Springer might be re-emerging here before the end of the season.
That'd be a great thing. We've seen him working out before games, running around pretty good. I mean, obviously we don't know exactly how he feels, but he seems to be moving pretty good out there. Nate Lucero and the trainers working him out pretty good. It's going to be kind of tough because there's really no place to go and get a rehab assignment to try and get some of that timing back.
Well, I guess like anybody else, you want to make sure that George doesn't pull this again and wind up with problems next year. But I would assume, as the ground ball goes to the right side, that he could probably work that out over the offseason. Singleton grounds out. That'll do it as the Astros strand Carter. Still 1-1.
Bottom 8 here at Safeco Field. It's all tied at 1 between the Astros and the M's. Come celebrate Fiestas Patrias Street Fest presented by United Airlines on Saturday, September 20th outside Minute Maid Park for live music, food, and fun for all ages. The Street Fest is open to all fans and will be on Crawford Street beginning at 3 before the Astros and Mariners play at 6:10 p.m. Guys.
Hey, Julia, thanks. Have you been hearing any of the singing from Jeff Blum up here?
Ooh.
You should, because I have been belting out the tunes to this song right here.
It's a great song.
Yeah.
The sing-along here?
Yeah, the version you're hearing is great.
Oh.
That's not nice, Ash.
Well, I didn't say it wasn't great up here.
It's just out of my range.
I was just clarifying down on the field. It's
good grief.
It's a great song.
In my tone, it was pretty good.
We go to the bottom of the 8th inning, tied at 1, 6 hits aside. Kevin Chapman still on to work it. That shift on, and it pays off. Marwin Gonzalez with the play. 1 pitch, 1 out. As Logan Morrison grounds out, it brings up catcher Mike Zunino. Yeah, I'm actually surprised you weren't considered for Journey's lead singer role.
It was close. Actually, I had a chance to sing with Steve Perry, and he was quite impressed.
Was Steve aware of your abilities?
Yeah, he was right next to me.
Yeah?
Yeah. He hogged the mic the whole time, but...
Were you up on stage?
Another story, yeah.
Wow.
That's another one of my stories.
Do tell more. And that's going to do it for Kevin Chapman, as Josh Fields will jog it in. The Astros have been utilizing this bullpen tonight. Josh Fields will come in a 1-1 tie. Make that Mike Fultonevich excuse me. 1 out. And now with Mike Zunino coming to the plate, right-handed bat, Mike Foltynewicz will come on and work it. The Astros are utilizing this bullpen. They haven't had a lot of chances lately. And Tom Lawless is going to take advantage of every opportunity he has here tonight.
Last time we saw Folty was back in August on the 29th against Texas. Went 2 innings. Gave up 1 hit, no earned runs. Strikeout in that game.
And he throws a strike to start it.
I was most impressed with that game he had in Cleveland, where he came in and just blew away 4 hitters in a row.
Yeah, that kind of looked like what we've been anticipating.
Yeah.
It's been Peacock, Downs, De Leon, Chapman, and now Foltynewicz. One and 2 the count.
My notes.
You're going to have to start keeping those notes on your side of the table.
Say, you're getting territorial over here.
Not that job by Castro. You never know when you get that little half swing. Fernando Rodney is getting it loose for Seattle. Tony Sipp will heat it up. Both managers apparently have phones that work to their bullpens.
Yeah, these September tie ball games create all kinds of fun for managers trying to bring guys in and out.
But Folty comes in and walks Mike Zunino. A 1-out walk brings up 8-hitter Michael Saunders.
In his defense, he hasn't pitched in a while. Get thrust into those situations. But again, that's what Tom Lawless wants to see. He wants to see how some of these young kids react.
And now a pinch runner for Seattle.
Could use a pinch rudder out in Puget Sound.
Could probably do that. In this case, they're going to go with James Jones as the pinch runner. I was actually surprised to see this guy not in the original lineup today. So Seattle now with speed at first base.
Has 23 stolen bases on the year. He's only played in 91 games.
He's only been caught once, if I'm not mistaken.
How about that?
Yeah, he can fly, and certainly a threat to run. Mike Foltynewicz is not known for the slide step.
I wonder if Juan Pierre was one of his heroes growing up, judging by that uniform.
And now Tom Lawless is going to take a slow walk toward the mound, and he points to the bullpen, goes after a left-hander for the bat of Michael Saunders. Well, we are going to spin some gears here in Seattle. Foltynewicz faces one man, walks him. And now Tony Sipp will come.
Astros 1, Mariners 1. Astros, Dynamo, Rockets, and more. We've got all your Houston sports news covered with Sportsnet Central. Weeknights at 6, 10, and midnight only on Comcast Sportsnet.
Tony Sipp is the man. I don't know about these September rosters. Good to get the guys some work and see what you got, but boy, it can stretch out a ball game, can it?
I'm going to say you will by the end of this ball game. The rate we're going, Sipp had himself a good series out there in Oakland. I believe he picked up a save on that first game in Oakland. Looking to continue a good stretch he's on right now. Solid numbers on the season.
You know, he's got a couple of really amazing numbers. He's allowed only 22 hits in 44 and 2/3 innings. That's one. And the other being the 57 strikeouts in those 44 innings. So it's really good stuff for Tony.
And I thought you were going to say he has an excessive amount of P's in his name and he can play left field.
Yes, he can do that. Butch with one out to Michael Saunders. So Lloyd McClendon or somebody for Seattle has decided to stay with the left-handed bat. Tony Sipp has abused the lefties. Good lead for Jones. He does not go. As we're bringing in Sipp also helps a bit to possibly shut down that running game. I wonder if Mike Foltynewicz has found that success in the big leagues, even with his great stuff, doesn't come easily. Jones bluffs, does not go.
Ooh, yeah, that's a strike. Good pitch by Tony. Didn't get the call right there.
Why does this happen? What are umpires?
I don't know. He's been down there all day long.
Yeah, that's been a strike a good part of the night. Up at the front of the plate again is where you have to look. Runner goes, the pitch a ball, the throw down, a strike, and not in time. Nice job by Jason Castro, but Seattle picks up the stolen base. They go with the pinch runner Jones, and he pays off with the bag.
May have jammed his hand in that base going in head first. So him shaking it off. Tony Sipp is going to take his time on not a very good jump. There was a pretty good chance that Castro with a good throw might have had a shot at him.
Nice snap down tag by Marwin Gonzalez. And again, Jason does the job. That's all you can ask. Makes it very close with a good throw. But now with one out, Seattle has a man in scoring position and a 2-1 count on Michael Saunders. Good lead by Jones. Marwin plays right in close. Saunders takes a strike. Tough battle going on.
Yeah, neither team really giving in on anything. It's going to take one big hit.
Close split of ball. 3-2 the count. Saunders watching it all the way.
There's some close pitches. Saunders doing a good job of laying off.
Left-handed bat of Brad Miller waiting on deck. See Keuchel and company paying close attention. Timeout called and brought on by Saunders at the plate. They say in the dugout it feels like things go really quickly. That's Trent Jewett, the bench coach, who is now the acting manager for Seattle. And ball four. Couple of walks in the inning. Seattle with runners at first and second. And it's Brad Miller due up. He's glancing back to the dugout, checking to see if he goes to the plate. And he will. Seattle is a team that is heavily loaded with left-handed bats. And in a situation like this, it may not help them a lot.
Ground ball right here would erase both those walks in this inning. One by Fultonevich, one by Tony Sipp. Trying to get that alignment in case there's a double steal also. Saunders runs well. Clean throwing lane to third base for Castro with the left-handed hitter up. Some choices.
Seattle leads this series with Houston this year 8-5. It was the Astros winning the first couple of games in the matchup. Those back in April. But Seattle has won the last 3. Runners go. The throw, no throw from Castro. Stealing third base, and the only one to go is Jones. So he has picked up a couple of stolen bases. Numbers 24 and 25 for Jones. And now Seattle has that potential go-ahead run 90 feet away.
Those legs can be a weapon sometimes, can't they?
Well, that's a huge weapon. And now the skip, Tom Lawless, coming out to the field once again. What do you think he wants to talk about here?
We've got a first and third situation. You've got that safety bunt situation that we've seen the Astros execute, as well as other teams. Maybe try and figure out a way to defend that. But again, Tom Lawless hasn't had a spring training to really hang out with these guys and know what he has an idea of what plays they've been working on, but he wants to make sure that everybody goes in the right direction.
Jake Buchanan getting loose in the Astros pen. By the way, James Jones had 3 stolen bases in one game against Houston. And back in late June.
He's been in the game 7 minutes and has 2 bags already.
Well, that could be the offensive player of the ball game.
Is he the first one to get to third base, it seems like? We haven't seen too many base runners get past second, except for Grossman for the Astros on that triple. It was a home run that was brought back.
Infield draws in. Seattle scored their run back in the 6th, the Astros in the 7th, and that's been it. And the pitch fouled back. So you have to be aware of the possible squeeze.
Yeah, you do.
This would seem to be a free stolen base opportunity at first for Michael Saunders.
Yeah,
with that infield drawn in,
yeah.
Nobody near the bag.
Yeah, when you're playing infield in up the middle, there's nobody covering, and they're not even holding him on at first.
Not sure why he wouldn't go.
I got nothing.
Because if you're Seattle, you're not concerned about an intentional pass of Miller. In fact, you would welcome it. Austin Jackson waits on deck.
And why not? You know, you get to second base, and a base hit gives you that extra insurance run.
2-1 the count. Miller lines one to right field, and this is going to gap and go to the wall. 1 run scores. Here comes Saunders to the plate. He will score. 2-run triple for Miller, and Seattle has jumped on top 3-1 here in the 8th.
That's a big hit. Mariner fans have been waiting for about 7.5 innings. Got a heater down and just went down and golfed it into that gap. That was a bullet off the bat. No chance for Marisnick to cut that off before it gets over his head. Even if he does catch it, that run tags up and scores anyways.
You know what I just saw right there? We talk about it sometimes, about guys who look like they want to drive in the big run and guys who don't look like it. And that was just taking a big-time hack right there. That wasn't by accident. That was taking a good swing in a big moment. And now Tom Lawless is going to head out to the mound once again. 2 runs are in. He's pointed to the bullpen.
It's going to be Jake Buchanan, I believe.
Right-hander Jake Buchanan will come on and face Austin Jackson. Tom Lawless wearing out a path on that third base side out to the mound. So Tony Sipp is done. And as he leaves, Seattle has taken that 2-run lead, which seems very big in this ball game. Jake Buchanan comes on. We'll be right back.
And the reason for that is going to be brought to you by Mako. And here's the big hit of the game. It comes off the bat of Miller, the shortstop. Brad Miller, the shortstop for the Seattle Mariners, coming up there in a first and third situation. Off Tony Sipp, who has fantastic numbers against left-handed and right-handed hitters, goes down and gets himself a fastball, rips a bullet into that gap. Marisnick unable to grab it, gets over his head and allows those 2 runs to come in. No doubt the big hit of the game for those Seattle Mariners, and now it's up to Jake Buchanan to get out of this thing.
Jake Buchanan, like others you've mentioned, Blummer, last pitched in the month of August. He's got an ERA of 5.74. 1 out. Another run potentially down at third base for Seattle. Infield in once again. 3-1 Mariners on top. Yeah, that's a huge base hit. Triple, as it turns out, for Brad Miller. And right now you could really free up that squeeze possibility. Pitch in for a called strike. 1-1 the count. Rich Donnelly with the signs down at third base. Tough night on which to get runs, and Seattle getting 2 here in the 8th inning has to feel mighty good about things.
Great starting pitching.
How about 7 pitchers for the Astros tonight, with Brad Peacock being as good as he was through 5.
Well, I was going to say great starting pitching, and then you've got kids coming out of there getting thrown into the fire.
Peacock 5 shutout innings, 4 hitting Seattle.
6 strikeouts,
6
but
strikeouts.
a solid 5 innings with plenty left in the tank.
92 pitches. Now, 1 more inning probably would have been it for Brad. Yeah. But so it's not like it's the tidiest night, but he was very sharp.
No, but that's Brad Peacock baseball.
Ground ball up the middle. That puts another run on the board. 4-1 Seattle here in the 8th inning. A couple of clutch hits, Brad Miller and Austin Jackson.
That's what you got to do. You got that infield drawn in. There's a gap up the middle to try and shoot for a base hit, or you're looking for a pitch elevated that you can drive for a sacrifice fly. Just get the barrel on it, make sure you hit it firm like Austin Jackson just did, and you're going to keep adding on.
Now that stolen base game, a couple of bags for the pinch runner James Jones. It may not look like it factored in because of the triple by Miller, but in my belief system, that really aided in that endeavor. Made life really tough for Tony Sipp. When you're putting a club together, and the Astros haven't had this benefit this year, you'd love to have that guy on the bench that you can utilize in various ways. One being to pinch run, steal a bag for you, play some good defense, maybe swing the bat. Of course, if the guy is that good, he's probably one of your starters, but at least one or two of those areas that he can bring to the table.
Well, it's not a bad idea to have like maybe that outfielder guy that can go play all three positions out there, but is also a burner that can take a bag late in the game, like you just saw James Jones, and have a guy on the bench that has some thump.
Now, James Jones is definitely a burner, but I'll be very surprised if he's not a part of the regular outfield for this team.
No, I agree. Yeah, and he'll probably be back out there tomorrow. He's got a ton of at-bats, played in 91 games, now 92, but yeah, I think he's going to factor into that Seattle outfield.
But again, a guy with the 2 bags tonight, 25 stolen bases in 26 tries. That's tough to find. Austin Jackson can run. Fly ball right center field. Tough play. Marisnick gets there to make the play. All the way to second is Jackson. He'll get back. Out number 2 here in the 8th inning.
Good play by Marisnick. You know he can go get it. Ball hit pretty well from Denorfia. Tracking it the whole way.
I'll bring up Robinson Cano. Now you want Cano to swing the bat if you're Seattle, but at the same time you wouldn't mind having a man in scoring position for him to drive in. We'll see if Austin Jackson has any thoughts of running. Does not go. The pitch hammered to center field. Fowler back on the track right in front of the wall, hauls it in. A couple of deep fly balls to end the 8th inning, but Seattle strikes with 3 and has a big 4-1 lead as we go to the 9th. Brake check. Every 4th oil change is free, even on synthetic. And by Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit us at geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO. So we go to the 9th inning here in Seattle. Jesus Sucre is now the catcher for Seattle. He comes on. And Fernando Rodney is the pitcher. Sucre is a guy that people have been raving about his throwing arm.
And there's the flat brim fireballer Fernando Rodney, making his 63rd appearance. He's got 5 losses, blown 3 saves out of 46 attempts. That means he's got 43 saves to lead the American League. 59 in the 3rd innings pitched. 66 Ks, giving up a bomb.
Look at the differential between the right-hand hitters and the left.
You look at it.
I'm looking. There's Sucre. Guy can throw. He has, if you will, a sweet arm.
Well played.
For those of you who speak a little dab of Spanish. For Houston, Matt Dominguez leads it off, the 8-hitter. Jake Marisnick waits on deck, and then Robbie Grossman. And of course, Jose Altuve would follow. He's still looking for his first hit on the night and has a 14-game hitting streak on the line. At 2-0 the count. Just pitcher number 4 on the night for Seattle.
Fernando Rodney's not much on mechanics.
Brings a strike. Yeah, he's kind of got his own program in a number of ways.
Gets the job done.
Boy, does he ever.
Great changeup.
Still got some gas to go with it. Change. Well, he can throw the change on a 2-1 count to the first batter in the 9th inning. New left fielder, that's Jones. That's he of the 2 stolen bases in the 8th. Foul back. It stays at 2-2. You know, with Austin Jackson and James Jones in that outfield for Seattle, then you got Michael Saunders, who plays a really good right field. They're suddenly looking pretty formidable out there.
Going to track it down out here in the acreage they have at Safeco.
Close, but no cigars. 3-2 on Dominguez.
Yeah, kind of wrapped around that outside corner of the plate.
Payoff 3-2 and ball 4. So a leadoff walk in the 9th inning. Matt Dominguez aboard. We'll see if T-Law, Tom Lawless, goes to the bench at all to pinch run. Of course, this run is clearly not critical, but if you can beat the rap, maybe a force play effort can prove big. So Dominguez aboard. Jake Marisnick, his first plate appearance of the night, came on defensively in the 8th. This delivery by Fernando Rodney, and this is not the time for it, but just a general point, should be easy to run on, because once he, where does he come set? And now he starts kind of moving the glove and hand around before actually starting to deliver. So you really ought to be able to move once he leaves the waist, assuming the umpires see it that way. Ball and a strike on Marisnick. To the count. Now, when you're talking Fernando Rodney, you're talking about a guy now with 215 career saves, 12 years in the bigs. He has saved as many as 48, that a couple of years ago. Fly ball to right. Saunders back. And out number 1. Back to the top with Robbie Grossman. The Astros 3 runs down. For Robbie Grossman on the night, good night offensively. 2 for 4. He has singled and stolen a base, and then he hit what for a moment looked like a home run in the 7th inning. It turned out after replay to be a triple for Robbie. He scored the only run of the night for Houston. That coming on the sac fly by Jose Altuve. Robbie takes a strike. It's 1-1. Robbie, the only Astro to have a pair of hits this evening. Houston with just 6 hits, Seattle 8. Robinson, Cano, and Brad Miller each with 2 hits for Seattle. Line drive into left, 3rd hit of the night for Robbie Grossman. That'll put runners at 1st and 2nd, and now brings up the tying run in the person of Jose Altuve.
Robbie having himself a night. A little unfortunate with that play with Saunders bringing back that home run, but hasn't phased him. Goes with that fastball away nicely. Be a good time for Jose to extend that hitting streak right here.
.338 the batting average. Started at .340 tonight. Did pick up RBI number 50 on the sac fly in the 7th inning. So he's driven in the lone Houston run tonight. And takes a strike. Seems to me that Jose Altuve, when he gets really good and hot, he's not up there taking a lot of pitches, just kind of free hacking. Ball and a strike.
Yeah, he's not discriminatory at all. If it's in somewhere in the vicinity he can get the barrel on it, he's going to go after it.
It's a good look at your major league leader in hitting. It's tied up. The count is 1-2. Jose Altuve is trying to stave off a hard charge by Detroit's Victor Martinez.
Man, on the inside of the left knee.
Victor Martinez at .337, 1 point back of Altuve. So get ready for a good race down to the wire. The 1-2. High chopper foul.
There's a lot of fun things to be watching for Houston Astros, playing against some good ball clubs, tight ball games. And you get to watch this guy go after the batting championship, chasing Biggio. Chris Carter dropping bombs, trying to catch up in the home run lead somewhere in there. Chasing down Nelson Cruz and Giancarlo Stanton.
Altuve somehow gets a piece on this one. Altuve in that chase with Biggio. Greg Biggio, 210 hits back in '98. Wow.
Almost got dirt before it got bat.
One and two. Actually got a pitch maybe to handle right there.
He did. It's tough though with 2 strikes earlier in the count. That ball probably gets turned on.
You know, Altuve's going to win the stolen base crown in the American League. He's got 51. The closest pursuer, Jacoby Ellsbury, at 37. But the batting race is in question right now. The hits race, he's going to win that.
Victor Martinez walks so much.
The 1-2 again. And now 2-2. Pretty tough time to get a big swing, but again, home run would tie things right here. Dexter Fowler waiting on deck.
Yeah, big swing right here would be kind of cool.
Runners lead from first and second. Up and in. Likely ball 3.
Pretty good battle going on, fighting off some pitches. Not sure if many of them would have been called strikes. Altuve fending him off, continuing this at bat.
But that guy versus the guy who takes close pitches with a couple of strikes. Fernando Rodney is facing quite a battle here with Jose.
Get that pitch count up against the Mariners closer here in this first game of a 3-game set.
Yeah, that could be big. Line drive softly hit, handled by Seager. That was in foul territory anyway. So Altuve takes an 0 for 3 to this point. We're down to an out with Dexter Fowler. And now can Dexter find a pitch to drive?
Altuve probably disappointed, realizing that was his last shot to extend the hitting streak.
Again, a 14-gamer for Jose. Right now it's about the W.
And I would say if you asked him, he'd probably say he was a little upset with himself for not helping out his ball club by driving in a run and extending this inning.
So Dexter gets the shot. Sucre out to the mound once again. How much can you say?
Maybe give him a breather. He's thrown quite a few pitches. With a foul ball.
Hernandez, Mauer, Farquhar, and Rodney for Seattle. Ball and a strike. You can see Rodney still throwing hard, 96.
Astros not making it easy on Fernando Rodney.
And 1-2. Well, you could really see how deliberate that move was after coming from the waist, hands up and then coming at. It ought to provide in tight situations, which you would assume that Rodney faces a lot in the 9th inning, golden opportunities to run.
I would say so.
The 1-2. Nice job by Sucre. Two and two the count. Here in the 9th inning, 4-1 Seattle. And Rodney steps off. Now 3-2. Runners will be in motion.
How about this? This will be the 30th pitch in the inning for Fernando Rodney.
You know, talking about that stolen base game that I would think would be huge against Rodney. Just 5 stolen bases and 6 tries against him.
The runner's moving right here. You get a ball in the gap. 2 runs are going to score easy and put Dexter Fowler in scoring position.
On the 3-2, can Fowler get a pitch to drive? There's Chris Carter. He's the next man in line.
Get him up to the plate.
Runners go. Ground ball back up the middle. Miller, the shortstop, makes the play, and that'll do it. So the Astros get a couple of runners on board in the 9th inning against Fernando Rodney. But when it's all said and done, Rodney picks up another save, and Seattle picks up the win. And it's big for Seattle. They win it 4-1 over the Astros.
Pick up a game on those Athletics. That wild card chase.
Seattle right in the thick of things. Question is, do their fans know it?
Ones that are here, they know it and they appreciate it too. That was a well-played baseball game on both sides.
Yeah. So a tough one for the Astros to lose. They've got 2 more here in Seattle. 4-1, Seattle wins it.